Hello and welcome to ReelTok episode 121. I am here with my two lovely co-hosts, George and Tyler. Cam is unavailable today as he is preparing things for work after paternity leave that seemed to fly by.
Dude, flew by.
Weird one. We've got a pretty packed episode today, so we're going to be covering obviously the three main releases. Nosferatu, which all three releases actually haven't come out in the UK, so obviously we'll be covering like usual spoiler and non-spoiler. But George and Tyler managed to see George managed to see A Complete Unknown and Nosferatu. I will be covering Nosferatu with both of them as well. And Tyler managed to see Babygirl, which he'll be covering also. Also got a bunch of news we're going to discuss as well. Before we get everything, shout out our solo executive producer as always, Stefan Johnson. We appreciate your support. The merch store is now live again. You might have seen that Cam tweeted it on our Twitter yesterday, I believe. Have a look. We're going to be putting new stuff up as well. And also, Patreon have a code available to them for 20% off merch. So if you are considering being a Patreon, that's like an added benefit at the moment. And also, feel free to have a look and get involved in our Discord and the other benefits that are available on, being a patron. Before we get into everything, we'll check in on how everyone's doing and what we've been watching. George, I'm going to start with you.
Hello. Good morning. Welcome to the podcast. What have I been doing? Been kind of all over the place this week, Christmas week. So I ended up going home. When did I go home? I went home last Sunday after we recorded the podcast. I went home and then kind of a slower week of work, which might be for the better, might be for the worse. I had shit to do, but no one was around. No one was working. So I kind of loosely popped on every other hour for 10 minutes to make sure nothing was breaking. So it was kind of a loose week of work. So I was just kind of relaxing at home with my parents and my sister, hanging out. Played tennis twice actually, which is awesome because I've been playing tennis once every 3 months is my rate right now, which really sucks. But yeah, relaxing week. The holiday of Christmas is fairly easy for Victoria and I because her family does Christmas Eve. My family does Christmas Day. So we don't have to split that holiday in half the way we do with Thanksgiving. So Christmas Eve was nice. We went to Victoria's house. My whole family went. Her whole extended family was there as well. And then Christmas Day, we go to my uncle's house. Also really nice. I have a massive Greek family that I don't see all that often throughout the year. So Christmas and Thanksgiving and this time of the year is the month span where, we all try to get together, have some game nights, see each other at the holidays, et cetera, et cetera. Got to the movies a couple times, rewatched Nosferatu in theaters, which the three of us will talk about in a while. I don't know why I said got to the movies a couple times. I got to the movies twice. Which is a couple times technically, but by our standards, not that many times. And then we'll talk about A Complete Unknown as well. Yesterday, let me tell you something. I plan around doing a chore day, laundry, cleaning the apartment, blah, blah, blah. So I came back to the city on Friday night, right? And my plan Saturday, wake up, spend the day doing chores. Okay. So I woke up. I went to the gym, had a really nice chest day, Seth, put up 225 for two. First time I put up 225 in a year and a half. So I was feeling really good yesterday, right? Come home, do my laundry. Laundry's done, hang up my clothes. I'm cleaning my apartment. I'm getting everything in order. I'm working a little bit here and there, just getting everything sorted for Monday. By the time all that's done, by the time I'm done cleaning, I emptied out my fridge. We had some older food. I did all my dishes. By the time I finished that, it was 10:30 a.m. So now I'm sitting here in my apartment for the rest of the day, just doing nothing. I had such a lazy day yesterday and it was awesome. It was raining in the city, so I didn't even feel bad. Usually on the weekends, I like to, go through a stroll through Central Park, maybe Subway downtown and just chill around Union Square or whatever. But it was pouring rain in the city yesterday. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to just do nothing. So I played OG Fort with my buds for an hour. I watched 3 movies yesterday. I recorded a bunch of TikToks yesterday. I just had a nice relaxing, like lazy day, which was really nice. But yeah, that was my week. I've been watching not a chunk, I guess, more than like, how much I usually watch in the span of a week. Where did we end off last week? I believe I talked about Home Alone 2. I talked about So Victoria and I watched How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the old animated film from 1966, like the 26-minute one. I'm pretty sure I've seen it before, but while I was watching it, I was just kind of like, none of this is familiar. But like, I'm confident I've seen that before. Like I mentioned, A Complete Unknown and Nosferatu, we will talk about. Tyler and I posted a Once Upon a Time in Hollywood review for our patrons.
You saw the light.
I saw the light. I grew. I matured. Blah blah blah. Yes, good movie. I was so close to watching it the next night, like just rewatching it. But my sister was home with her boyfriend, so we ended up watching Office Christmas Party instead, which was. It's fun.
Mid.
It's funny. Yeah, it's not great. It's funny. It has its moments.
When did that come out? Like 2016 or something?
That came out 2016. Yeah.
Because weirdly, like I don't know, maybe it's on it must be on some streaming service like promoting on the homepage. Because like a lot of my friends, like just like non-movie friends, like were like logging it a ton this week. I'd never heard of this.
I saw it on Prime.
You ever heard of Office Christmas Party?
I've never heard of it, but like all my like normie friends are like logging this week. So like some streaming service has to be like. I think it's being like, watch this movie.
Yeah. It's like it's like, I really like Jason Bateman. TJ Miller is also pretty funny. It's got Jennifer Aniston. She's funny. It's exactly what the title of the movie is. It's an office Christmas party that just goes absolutely batshit. So it's like, I could see you giving this, maybe like a light 2.5 or giving it a half star. I don't know. I watched James Cameron's The Abyss. That's a movie, man. I bumped that one up to a 5 stars. That's a real movie.
I should watch it.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. It's so ambitious. There are these like massive set pieces where I'm just watching and I'm like, what sort of fucking madman would even try to do this? And then I remember James Cameron would try to do this. James Cameron with water is George Miller with the desert. It's just two absolutely delusional dudes just doing whatever the fuck they want. And just
how do you watch it in the US? Can you just watch it in the US?
How? No, I rented it on Prime.
We can't do that here.
Oh, really?
So
do you have you have Apple? Do you have Apple TV?
You can't do that here. It's not available in the UK. The film. So if I'm wrong, in the film, there's like a scene with like a dead rat or something.
Yeah.
So it was banned here. So you can't actually rent it or buy it physically. I think
that.
Yeah. So you can't even buy like the 4K, for example.
They drown a rat in the movie. It's kind of
crazy.
That's actually. I was watching it when I was watching the movie for the second time last week. I was like, this scene is really going on for a long time. Like they're really torturing this rat right now.
Yeah.
I thought James Cameron was supposed to be an environmental bro, and he's out here killing real rats for real.
Killing real rats on the board of AI. This dude kind of sucks, if we're being honest, but he makes good movies, so that's all that matters. But yeah, The Abyss is sick. I absolutely loved it. Constantine, man, let me tell you something. This is a movie, guys. This is such a real movie. There are a lot of fake movies out there. Tyler's number 1 of the year, fake. Constantine, watch it, dude.
I swear you made that. The only reason you made that TikTok or Instagram reel of like, here's all the comic book movies I give it a 5 out of 5 stars.
It's because I just bumped up Constantine to a 5. I was watching it the other night and I was just like, dude, like every single scene is just so fucking cool. And then the scene, obviously I'm beating this part to death, but like the scene where Lucifer comes in and then for the next like 20 minutes of the movie, it's just Lucifer and Constantine going back and forth. Dude, that's Christian Bale, Heath Ledger level antagonist, protagonist dynamic. Like it's insane. This movie's so good. This movie's so unbelievably good. I love it. I love it so much. And then I watched Death Race with Jason Statham. I remember this was like one of those movies where like I was watching it at way too young of an age because my dad really liked this movie. So like it came randomly across. I was searching Max for a movie to watch, and like I just scrolled past Death Race, and it kind of like hit like a nostalgic nerve in my body where I was like, holy shit, I completely forgot about that movie. So I threw it on immediately, and very happy to report that it's sick.
It's the old W.S. Anderson film.
Yeah. The one where they're in prison and like they make like they literally race cars to the death. And it's like it's like a reality show. They televise it, and like the winner wins his freedom. So it's sick.
Sounds like that other movie Gamer came up probably around that same time.
What's Game?
I don't know.
Gerard Butler, where he's like a prisoner, but like it's like live stream.
And
like the more viewers and money they get, like the better freedom.
I don't remember Gamer.
I love that.
I think it's kind of like a shit movie. At least it was when I watched it back then, but it sounds similar-ish. And it came out around the same time, I bet.
Well, Death Race has like a 2.7 average rating on Letterboxd, and I'm like, damn. You guys don't know.
He's hated.
Yeah, I know. He's hated big time, but like I was watching this movie, I was like, this is sick. Like this is Fast and Furious and Mad Max in a prison with Jason Statham.
Nice.
How does that sentence alone not, tickle your fancy? But the movie was great. I rewatched Ford v Ferrari. I had only seen this the once, I believe, when it had first come out. I've never rewatched it. And I think a big part of that was I was scared that this would be a movie that would not necessarily hold up well on rewatch. We'll go more in depth. This is our patron review of the week. So if you want to hear like full in-depth thoughts, we'll post our ratings and reviews on Friday. But the movie held up. I had a really good time. I really like this on rewatch. When did the movie come out? 2019. So 5 years later.
Wow, is it only that? Is it that new? I thought it was getting old.
Yeah, it came out in 2019.
Well, I mean, 2019 is also when Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out. I don't know if you saw that MAGA clip making the rounds of like Hollywood hasn't made films with this much sauce in decades. It's like it's a 5-year film. And plus also Last Night in Soho's in that clip, and that's 2021, even more recent. All the replies like, man, Hollywood used to like know how to make movies in the 80s. Like this is literally 2021.
And then last night I had a weird little double feature. I watched Clash of the Titans. Obviously I'm in a very big Greek mythology mood right now.
I wonder why.
Yeah, I wonder why as well.
Clash of the Titans is a really interesting film because I used to like that, but I've not seen it in years, to be honest.
Clash of the Titans had some like moments that made this movie worthy of a 5-star, but also moments that made this movie worthy of a 0.5-star.
Yeah.
It was like so like one sequence, like the entire sequence when they go to Medusa and fight her for like 20 minutes. Like I was like, this is sick. Like I love the Medusa design. I love the design of like her abode. Like it was a really cool sequence. And literally immediately after, the Kraken comes out, and I'm like, this is so fucking cool. Yeah. And then the movie just goes dull, where like we're basically just like Perseus is just chasing a bag with Medusa's head for like 5-10 minutes, and I'm like, what are we doing? Like this is boring. And then it was very anticlimactic. So it bounces back and forth from like, holy fuck, this is sick, to holy fuck, this is really bad.
Crazy cast, if I remember as well.
Insane. Really good cast. A lot of people I did not expect. Ray Fiennes as Zeus, as Hades, and Liam Neeson as Zeus.
Mads is in it as well, isn't he?
Yeah, Mads is in it as well as Draco. So some really good casting, some really just good performers. Liam Cunningham from Game of Thrones is there as well.
Who's that? Game of Thrones.
Oh God, what's his name? You know his name. The old guy. He loved the girl that got burned at a stake.
Oh, Stannis' guy. What's his name?
No, Stannis' guy.
Stannis' guy. What's his name?
Oh my God.
He was like one of my favorites. What's his fucking name?
Yeah. Fuck. Hold on. This is gonna bother me now.
How am I forget? Yeah. He was like one of the guys.
I don't know how I'm forgetting this. Where is it? Damn, it's not on like his bio in
Stannis' right-hand man.
Just you look at Nicholas Hoult is also in this movie.
Davos.
Oh, dumb. We're so stupid, man.
That's terrible. Apologies to anyone listening.
And then after I watched Clash of the Titans, where did I watch Clash of the Titans? I think I watched Clash of the Titans on Apple TV. So when the credits start rolling on Apple TV, it like immediately gives you suggestions of like what to watch next. Jesus, excuse me, I just like internally burped. But the movie Legion was next. It was like, watch this next. And I was like, okay, I'll watch it. And I watched Legion, and it was kind of sick. Same exact story as Clash of the Titans. There were some really awesome action, horror, really scary set pieces. And I was like, this is fucking cool. This is worthy of a high rating. And then there's like really, really bad, like religious exposition and like just nothing of value in this. Like this movie says nothing. It's so much show and don't tell properly, I guess. But the movie is sick. There are some really fucking cool moments. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this movie.
I know what it is, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts, because I landed on a 3-star. The average rating is a 2.4. But yeah, I think like the highs of this movie, basically they're in a diner in like basically on like a Route 66 type road where there's just like, if you're at this diner, there's nothing for 100 miles in either direction. One girl is pregnant, and Michael, like, you know, the angel, played by Paul Bettany, comes down and basically just has to protect this girl because a bunch of demons and other angels are going to try to kill her baby. We don't know why. We have no idea why. They don't explain it. They just say, we have to save this baby. It's very annoying because I'm like, is that the second coming of Christ? Is that just the savior? Is that another angel? Who the fuck is that baby? Who the fuck is this woman? Like, they don't explain anything, and it's very annoying. And then there are like several conversations where like they're trying to be like insightful and profound. And it's annoying because it's like, these are good conversations. I just wish this was happening all the time. But yeah, movie's kind of sick, kind of sucks, very middle of the pack kind of movie. But I was on enough gummies to make me have a good time last night. But that was it. That's what I watched. Light week, but that was my week.
Perfect. Tyler, how was your week?
It was solid. So this is week 1 done of my 2 weeks off of work. Got a lot done in terms of like clean the house a good amount, got ahead on some stuff, but also like was also moderately lazy as well. You know, watching movies, watching sports, getting up a little later than I usually do. Staying up a little later. Time
to be lazy, Tyler. That's okay.
Yeah, that is fair. But I'm like kind of like the worst with time off. I realize in the fact that I have a week left. And well, every single day of my 2 weeks off, all I keep thinking of is going fuck, back. Man, it's only 10 more days. And now I'm like, it's halfway over, so therefore it's done. Like there's no point in even enjoying the next 7 days off because it's already done. It's wasted. So it's like just the worst. I'm sure it's some form of anxiety to be like that, but it sucks because that's all I'm thinking about. Like once today's over, I'm like, shit, man. Like I don't have another, like once we get to next Sunday, like it's done. It's over. Like, so I'm just whatever. But a lot of good sports this week. Fantasy football championship weekend. So big time. So in my dynasty league, which is for pretty big money, which is dynasty's like what I think is like the ultimate fantasy football, because you don't redraft a new team every year. You draft a team, and that's like, it's like your actual team. Like you have a salary for them each year. At the end of the season, their salary either goes up or down. You say, do you want to keep them or cut them? Go to free agency, draft rookies. But this is the 3rd year now we've done it. We've gotten second place.
You can't do transfers, or you can?
You can, but like you don't have if you want, you can keep your entire team the next year, or you can cut everyone off your team.
The next year. Yeah.
Well, I mean, during the season, you can drop people and pick up people as well, but it's more like normal fantasy football or normal fantasy sports in general is like once the new season starts, completely wiped slate clean.
Yeah.
This one has a more continuity to it.
Yeah.
3rd year into it. 1st year got second place, so I lost the championship game. 2nd year, second place, lost championship game. This year, I'm in the championship game again, projected to lose. So 3 years in the league, 3 years of second place. So it's like sucks because you always lose, but second place makes money back. So it's like, a little more than money back. So like it's profitable, but like every year it's just like you come up just short. It's very disappointing. Yeah. But I mean, hey, if I keep in second place, that's like a positive return on my investment. So I'll be fine with it. But hopefully we can shock the world today and get a big win. But yeah, Christmas. Oh yeah, Christmas was kind of ass. So Riley was supposed to be back Christmas Eve morning. Then American Airlines like shut down everything. So then her flight got delayed to the point to where she's supposed to be back Christmas Eve morning. Didn't get back till Christmas Day night. So like all of Christmas Eve, all of Christmas Day, was just alone chilling. Went to the movies though. That's always a good time. Wish I liked all the movies a little more, but we'll get into those. But I did the full triple feature. I saw A Complete Unknown, which for some, like I thought they were all Christmas Day releases, but for some reason A Complete Unknown was like out Christmas Eve. So I was like, oh, I'll just go to the theater Christmas Eve night for A Complete Unknown, and then did a Nosferatu and a Babygirl the next day. So got to see all those in theaters. And then other than that, the week is pretty standard. The week ahead, I don't know. I'm not a big New Year's resolution guy, but I'm not New Year's resolution guy. It's like I always like the new year to like reflect on the previous year, set goals. It's like kind of like just a refreshing time of year. So kind of excited for using the next couple of days, be intentional about what I think I want to accomplish. Like obviously by the end of next year, I'll be married. So like there's a big milestone year coming up. We're going to be selling our house, move in. So just trying to look to the year ahead, try and plan some big goals. So that's what I'm going to be trying to spend some time doing the next couple of days. Call them a New Year's resolution if you want, but more so just, good time to reflect if you like the turning of the calendar, new year. In terms of what I watched on Monday, so let's see. Last time we talked, on Monday I watched, actually, no. I don't know if I talked. I watched Terrifier 2. Yeah, so that was Monday. Watched Terrifier 2. Yeah, I liked it more than Terrifier 1. Terrifier 1 was, I think I gave a 1.5 star. Terrifier 2, I gave 3 star. Like there's lore here that I'm like interested in. And like Seth, I think you say it best. I think you're lower on them than me, but like every review you have, you're like, these movies are ass, but like I'll keep coming back for more. And it's kind of like, I don't know. They introduced a lot of interesting lore that the first one didn't really have. That was like, where the hell's this going? What do they got cooking up here? So I'm intrigued.
It is just to see what wickedness they continue to make.
I mean, they are vile movies. Like they are hard to stomach. Like, and I feel like I have a decent stomach, but like these push it for me.
The second one's just too long. I thought like it's so long, and I kind of respect it because it is like his whatever his name, Damien Leone. Yeah. It is like his passion project, so I get it. But like the second one's like what 2 hours 20 or something on those lines,
which I didn't know because I watched the first one's like an hour 20 or something. So I was talking with people in the Discord, which join our Patreon, join our Discord if you want. And I was like, I need a quick watch. So I might just throw on Terrifier 2 and like quick watch ? I'm like, what do you mean? So I look at him like, what? There's no reason this should be over 2 hours. It's not even just a hair over 2 hours, like you said. It's like well over. But I told her it's like quick watch, quick hour 20. Let's get Terrifier 2 done. But then I was like, oh shit, okay. But again, there's a lot of interesting lore that they're building with it that it had me captivated. It moved me a bit. And then Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, of course, check out our Patreon review. You can join a Patreon now, even though we already did that review, but like you'll get a backlog of all the previous 50 reviews we've done. Then did the triple feature. Before seeing Nosferatu, I rewatched the Murnau Nosferatu from 1922. Love it even more. Feel like it's just one of those that every time I watch them, I love it even more each time. Bumped up to 4.5 at this point. Watched for the first time Nosferatu the Vampire, which is a Werner Herzog iteration, and I've never seen a Werner Herzog film, which is one of my biggest blind spots.
Watch Grizzly Man, please.
Is that a documentary or film?
Yeah, it's my favorite documentary ever.
Because he's like, I don't know, according to Doug, he's like the GOAT documentarian, right?
I mean, he's done a few, but I've actually only seen that one, but it's one I've watched over and over. It's amazing.
Right. Well, I definitely want to dive more into it because I thought this film was gorgeous. It was beautiful. Just colorful, like the shots that keep staying in my head the most, like the yellow caskets flooding the city. Love that in those images. Even the colors, like the town itself, I thought it was a beautiful looking film. The landscapes, the lush, but also, Isabella Adjani is kind of just like the GOAT. And I still haven't seen Possession, really need to, but this was even before Possession, and she's plays Mina / I guess Ellen would be if they're using the non-Bram Stoker names, but incredible portrayal of Mina / Ellen. And Klaus Kinski's Dracula in this is just so interesting. He's so alluring, so intrigued by him. Really, really liked. I was just fascinated by this iteration. I think it takes some big swings in the third act as well. I was surprised how much I like this one. It's not really a universally liked adaptation, which surprised me. I still think Murnau is like the king adaptation. You could also say, Bram Stoker's up there as well, the Coppola, but in terms of like films titled Nosferatu. But really like the Herzog, and then rewatch Bram Stoker's Dracula. Just, might be the best looking film ever made. I think we all kind of agree on that front. And, we've talked before about how we all think Keanu being called bad for this performance is very silly, which I still agree. But on this rewatch, Winona Ryder really stuck out to me. She's so damn good, like in this movie. And I think what Coppola's iteration captures the most is how Dracula is like a tortured soul who is so desperate and thirsty for love and connection, but also like terrified by it because he knows like what it does to him and what it'll do to someone else. So I think Gary Oldman perfectly kind of captures that, and you see both like his normal looking self and the more decrepit looking self. But crazy movie. Obviously the discourse has been going around like horny movies, but this is like the king of a Dracula adaptation. It's going to be horny, and Coppola's
sure.
we were all big fans of Bram Stoker over here. Exactly. What else did I watch? Now I got to go to the point where I've watched films I haven't logged yet.
So I'd strongly recommend, if you loved Nosferatu the Vampire, watch Werner Herzog's Aguirre, The Wrath of God, which is the one. There was a lot of complications with it when filming, and with Klaus Kinski, because he was just like a fucking crazy individual. But he gives, like, in my opinion, one of the best performances ever. It's my favorite Herzog feature film.
I'll note that down.
You'd really like it, actually. Amazing.
Yeah, because Nosferatu the Vampire came out in 1979, and I was impressed because like there was a lot of just like marketing and press stuff before this Nosferatu coming out about like how many rats Eggers used. I was like, Herzog, 50 years ago, I was like, he might have outratted Eggers. I was like, the amount of rats in this movie was like, this is insane. Like, how are they? I mean, I'm guessing back then they probably had like speaking of George with the Abyss, they probably had no laws. There's probably just like grab all the rats and let's just kill some rats. Whereas Eggers probably had to use like PETA approved trained rats. But rewatch It's a Wonderful Life on Christmas. Film I definitely didn't appreciate as a kid, but just like as you grow older, it just ages well. Which is, I mean, you can't really say that with a lot of like dramas from like the 40s that are more like populist. A lot of times they age kind of poorly. It's just such a wholesome movie that just makes you feel so sad but so good at the same time. And then I watched Red Rooms, which I still haven't logged as well. I wanted to love it more. I think I need a rewatch to fully appreciate it. It's still like a 4-star for me, don't get me wrong, but it's like one of those that I was going into it expecting like perfect 5-star just from like how much buzz was brought up, and obviously I know you love it as well. But yeah, just very unsettling movie. Like the final courtroom scene, not spoiled for people. Like, well, I don't know if it's a final courtroom scene, but Seth or anyone who's seen it knows the courtroom scene I'm talking about towards the end. Just makes your skin crawl. And then final act as well. It just crazy. Juliette Garepi, probably butchered that, but
yeah, I tried to do it on TikTok and I think I got it wrong.
just a masterful portrayal of just a woman's descent into madness as she completely blurs her own reality and ruins her whole life by over consuming and fully positioning herself into the life of someone who's just like super fanning a serial killer. Crazy movie that goes directions I wasn't expecting, goes deeper than I wasn't expecting. Definitely a slow burn for sure, which is not a negative, but like this movie really lets you sit and get really uncomfortable. And a lot of like, people have a either positive or negative reaction to one takes or oneers, but this movie has a lot of really long oneers. Like the first 15 minutes, like the entire first like opening.
It's more, honestly. It's like half an hour.
Like the whole like first half hour of the movie is like the opening arguments from the defense and the prosecution. I'm like, this whole thing's a oneer, and it was really cool. A lot of cool camera movement as well for it. Probably
see the split the operator, Tyler. See the split the operator
in the opening scene.
No, in the when they're in. I don't know. Like it's like they're in her apartment. It's the girl with the TV behind her with the news channel on.
I don't think I caught it. I'll have to. That'll be something to dive into and rewatch. Also, this chick does not want to turn on lights in her apartment ever. It was like some of these scenes. I was like, let me see what's going on here. You're making it unnecessarily creepy. But I mean, obviously, very intentional. And then Green Room, I watched right after it, which is like completely unintentional. I was actually doing a trivia time with Harry the other day, and we were talking about Green Room, and I was like, yeah, I've been wanting to watch it, and it's something that I've been wanting to throw on for a while, but I just haven't. Sounds like a very interesting premise. So just very coincidentally, I watched Red Rooms and then Green Room, like completely not by design, but Green Room's another movie I just wanted to love more. Like this is probably when I actually give my rating. I was gonna be like a 2.5 or something. Like I don't know, it was fine, but I don't know why.
Green Room.
Yeah, Green Room.
Patrick Stewart one.
Yep.
Green Room? I really like Green Room. Actually.
Yeah, I know, and everyone does. All my music, like I don't see any negative reviews. It's nothing was bad about it. It was just fine for me. I don't know. It just wasn't what I expected. I guess maybe I was expecting something different. But it's a whole one location for the most part film, and shout out Callum Turner. Big week for you getting married to or engaged to Dua Lipa. But there's definitely some moments in this film that are incredibly shocking and some very gruesome moments that like have my jaw on the ground. It's like, holy shit, that's disgusting to look at. And then Ford vs Ferrari, we'll talk about that for this week's Patreon review. And yeah, that's what I watched this week.
Nice. I've just sent you that picture, Tyler. You might catch it. There you go. That's what I was on about. Like when they're sat in the
oh yeah, I definitely didn't catch that.
Cool shit.
Good stuff.
Out of interest, did either of you guys watch the Nosferatu like Willem Dafoe film that like shows the making of it kind of thing? Did either of you watch that?
No.
Okay, so I'm gonna watch it this weekend actually because I want to. It was like I can't remember. It's like so John Malkovich plays F.W. Murnau and Willem Dafoe. It's like
when is it from?
It's on the making of Nosferatu. I think it's like 2000 because I kept seeing everyone's like rankings and they were putting like Willem Dafoe and Count Orlok, and I was like, when the fuck did Willem Dafoe play Orlok? And then it's directed by Elias. I'm not going to try and pronounce that name. Director F.W. Murnau makes a forced pact with a vampire to get him to star in his 1922 film Nosferatu. So it's like a play on, like a meta of where it's like the making of a film inside the film, if that makes sense. That was really, really cool. I've just like been looking at it recently.
Is it available anywhere?
I have absolutely no idea. Shadow of the Vampire. Let's see. Yeah, you can watch it on. We can rent it on Prime for £3 or like $4 or whatever.
Okay,
that's cool. Yeah, what did I this week? Christmas. I didn't really watch like much. This is probably like the year I've watched the least Christmas films. So
same.
I wasn't really that bothered. But had like a Christmas meal at my mom's side of the family, which was great. Which everyone was there. Always really, really nice. We do it every year. Try to film and like trying to like recommend films, and they were all asking me, and that was cool. And tried some music and just ate a lot of good food. That was nice. And then went to Anna's dad's for Christmas dinner on theirs. I haven't logged it yet, but I based on TV, they were showing Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Burton's one. And like, I was just sat with like the kids, like Anna's nieces and nephews, like watching it while dinner was being prepared. And I was like just saying to them, like, this is shit. You should watch the original. You're like one of those like old men. Like you should watch the real film. But I hate that. Like every time I see a clip from that shit, I just hate it. I just really, really dislike the film. I just think it's awful. But that was cool. I spent some time with Anna. Most stuff I've been watching, we've been taking up Breaking Bad. Still, we're like on that now. We're on season 5 now, so we're like there. Like we've just finished the season 4 finale and stuff, and it was crazy. And I just love watching stuff like that with someone who hasn't seen it before. I like weirdly enough, like Anna hasn't got any of it spoiled for her as well, which is cool because obviously all the reactions are completely genuine. Pretty good week. Got some time off, working tomorrow, then off New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and then back. But yeah, in terms of what I've watched, as with George, kind of a reclaiming for me. Tenet, watch Tenet. Cool film, really, really
bang.
Cool. Just
I need to watch that.
Nonsensical rubbish, but in the best possible manner and in a purposeful manner as well. No, in a purposeful manner, not in a derogatory term. I think Nolan takes a lot of criticism previously with this film and kind of puts it into a blender. And I think that's great. Really enjoyed it though. Really, really enjoyed it. It's now, whereas it was like second last in my Nolan ranking, even though that was kind of pointless because I hadn't seen it since it came out. It's now 5th, which is cool. So it's really, really jumped up. Shout out my YouTube. I've been putting work on YouTube. I did a Nolan Taylor yesterday. If you haven't checked it out, go. Watched Willy Wonka, which is kind of classic. Did watch the new Wallace and Gromit film on Christmas as well, which I assume you two will be watching because it's a Netflix film, so it doesn't involve you.
Yeah, but it's not out for us.
No, it comes out on the 3rd, I think.
Yeah.
Watch it. We'll review it. It's great. Really, really enjoyed it. It was like as with like everyone else who I saw log as well. And I watched Shane Cam's not here, so I did watch Klaus. I saw it on Netflix after I'd watched like Breaking Bad, and I was like, I just watch it. Christmas
Klaus is sick.
Like it's actually really good. Like no offense, Cam. I trust you. I don't, but it is like really, really good. It's definitely it's a film that similar to like The Holdovers that I can see myself watching on future Christmases, which is, let's be honest, how many Christmas films have had that effect over the past 15 years? Not many. And Class came out in 2019. It's really, really good. It's probably one of the best films Netflix have ever put on the platform, in my opinion. It's really, really good. Outside of that, though, not really much else. That's kind of it for me. I've really not been watching much other than like Breaking Bad and a few films here and there. Other than that, I think we'll kind of move on to the reviews of the week. Do we want to start with Nosferatu and then move on
because all three of us,
Babygirl and stuff? All right, cool. So we'll start with Nosferatu, which is obviously kind of the biggest release. Again, still not out in the UK, which is a shame. I got a chance to watch it on the 10th. I think, George, you probably watched it like a week earlier than that, maybe like start of December-ish. And obviously Tyler saw it on the 25th, I assume.
Yep.
Just to run through the synopsis, if you don't know, kind of Dracula said, also Tyler reading Dracula as well. Just on that note, I forgot to mention that.
I think my copy gets in the mail today.
Nice.
We're all going to start reading. We're all reading.
ReelTok.
ReelTok.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll get talk. Some discussion about a famous piece of literature. Maybe the greatest literature to ever literature later, which we'll discuss as well. I'm sure everyone who listens will know what I'm talking about. Nosferatu, directed by Robert Eggers, a gothic tale of obsession between a haunted young woman and the terrifying vampire infatuated with her, causing untold horror in its wake. Obviously, another adaptation of the original material, Bram Stoker's Dracula, in which there has been a few. There's obviously been Murnau's Nosferatu, a different tale, but a take on it in 1922. Wow, that was elite.
Clipped it.
And then Nosferatu the Vampire in 1979.
There you go.
And then Shadow of the Vampire. Then Bram Stoker's Dracula, again, another kind of different tale, but one on the original material in 1992.
Think so.
Is that right?
I don't have that one pulled up.
Okay. 0.
Yep, 92. Yep, 92.
Wow, this is elite. Shadow of the Vampire in 2000, which obviously I just checked, and then Nosferatu in 2024. I will start non-spoiler as always. So for our UK people, you can obviously watch this part as well, just giving our kind of brief thoughts on the reaction to it. I'll start with Tyler. Start with you if you want to give your non-spoiler, and then we'll go on to kind of a bit more of the material later on.
Yeah, I think Nosferatu was pretty cool. I was wishing you weren't going to start with me because I feel like I'm the more negative one of the group, but I guess we can just kind of build up from there. We'll build from negative to positive. And I guess it is worth noting Cam's not here. He watched it though, gave it a 2.5. But shout out Cam, scary movie for him. And he's not even on the podcast to talk about it, but he goes out and sees it anyways. I guess he's probably like, I'm on paternity leave for a couple more days. There's no other chance of seeing this. Might as well go. But yeah, so spoiler-free thoughts. I'm closer to a 3 than a 4 with my 3.5. And it's not even like I have a lot of vitriol or anger for this film. And a lot of criticism I have for it is probably anyone listening to this, or you guys have seen similar aspects of from other people who are critical of the film as well. So I don't really necessarily have anything super new and insightful, but for those of you who haven't seen like kind of some general criticisms, one of the big things in general is I just feel like this wasn't as big of a swing as I was expecting. I kind of been saying this to a couple people this week that I feel like while the trailers, actually my showing didn't have trailers, which is kind of funny. It started right at 10:45 a.m. crisp, and there is and I never go to AMC just because I'm closer to a different chain, and my chain does 10 minutes of ads. The AMC always is like 25-30. So many people, and because it's like a sold out show, like 40% of the show walks in.
It's doing well, isn't it? Which I didn't.
Well, a complete unknown also. Like I don't know, Christmas movies might just be back because both those were like just fully sold out. No,
I kind of expected a complete unknown just because Timothy Bob Dylan, but.
Nosferatu
really well.
Pulled in the people, but yeah, like literally 40% of my theater walked in like 20 minutes late, and you could hear the groans and how like shuffling they were. And it'd usually be like a couple, and like one person would be like, "I told you we should have got here early." He's like, "Oh," blah, blah. And I'm like, "It sucks for you guys," but started right away. But pretty much, I feel like this movie was if I sat and closed my eyes, was like, what is Robert Eggers Nosferatu adaptation going to look like? I feel like it was exactly what it was, which again is more just like a criticism of Robert Eggers that I don't love, which is I haven't been a big Robert Eggers guy the entire history of this podcast ever since I started watching him. I mean, I like him. It's like 3.5 to 4 is like a sweet spot for me, and never really anything above that, but never anything below that. So I like Eggers, don't love him, don't hate him. And I just feel like this felt like another Eggers movie, which is just something I really didn't expect from the guy who's like been building, like he made a play about this in high school. He made Nosferatu play. He's always been talking about like, I bet like basically like the reason he became a filmmaker is pretty much because like to make a Nosferatu adaptation. So I was just expecting a little bigger of a swing here. I felt like it just took a lot. Like, it's paying homage in one aspect, but I feel like a lot of it took a lot from other Nosferatu adaptations. Focuses a little more on the Ellen/Mina story, which again is another thing that gets confusing with all the Nosferatu adaptations, is like the copyright of Bram Stoker's Dracula, and like even the Nosferatu the vampire is titled Nosferatu. It's still using like actual Bram. They must have got the rights to the Dracula because they're using Dracula names. This one goes back to 1922 namings of Ellen and Thomas. But I'll start with positives. I think everyone in the cast was great. You'll see a lot of people with different interpretations of who is good, who is bad. Lily Rose Depp, incredible emotional acting, incredible physical acting, everything about her performance, top, elite, perfect. I thought Aaron Taylor Johnson was great. That's the one you're going to hear the most mixed on. I think a lot of the criticisms about Aaron Taylor Johnson kind of come from, which I do think is somewhat of valid criticism as well, is that tonally, I think some of the performances felt like they weren't really in the same movie. I think his performance felt vastly different than a lot of other people. Same with Willem Dafoe, which I loved Willem Dafoe's as well. It was the silliest performance. It was the one leaning into the ridiculous nature of this the most, whereas I think Nicholas Hoult was the most like serious cookie cutter performance, which I didn't love as much. But again, it's probably why I liked Aaron Taylor Johnson and Willem Dafoe, because it was like a little more ridiculous and over the top, like Lily Rose Depp's physical acting as well. So I think there's some tonal clashes with the cast there. But I thought everyone did great. And Nicholas Hoult, probably my least favorite of the bunch. But that's not negative. It's just like, I thought it was more with the writing of his character. I kind of like in some of the other Nosferatu adaptations that, you have this like real estate agent going on this journey. They usually started a little more happy-go-lucky before they just slowly kind of dive into the darkness and like terror of like, holy shit, this is like the most insane, terrifying, horrifying experience of my life. I feel like for like Nicholas Hoult, it was like the entire time he was just horrified from the beginning. And I kind of like seeing the emotional shifts that some of the other Thomas Hutters / I don't know what the Dracula version name of it is, whatever Keanu Reeves was. I kind of like seeing them, you see that gradual descent from like, I'm about to go make the deal of my life to like financially set up my family, but sad I have to leave my wife, to then like, I'm dying. I'm literally done for here. But what other positives? I thought some of the camera work was really cool. I didn't love the way it looked. I love the way it looked from a production design and costume design perspective. Thought the movie was too dark and too kind of bland color palette, especially compared to like Herzog's. But also, again, I think it looked like every other Robert Eggers film in terms of he's like always goes for that overly gray, saturated or unsaturated look in all of his films. So again, it's not really a singular criticism, or it's almost an unfair criticism on Nosferatu to say it's pretty dark, grim, gray, because that's, the Northman, the Lighthouse, the Witch. So it's more just like, again, I'm not a big Eggers guy. It's another criticism, just Eggers in general. But the score, top notch, incredible, fantastic score. We've had some great scores in 2024, and I think this lives up to the hype as well. And I think the sound design is completely chilling, terrifying. Last couple things I'll mention, I guess, in the non-spoiler aspect. Kind of disappointed by the fact that I thought there was a lot of cheap jump scares in this movie, which I didn't really expect. I didn't think Eggers was kind of that guy just from his previous movies, but there's a lot of just like something quick's going to flash on the screen with loud ass sound effects just out of nowhere. And then there's going to be like, someone in the dark with a candle that's going to turn one way and nothing will happen, turn another way, and boom, something pops out. I'm like, it just doesn't seem like Eggers to me. Like, I feel like that's not usually what he's doing. So that was a little disappointing, but the movie was definitely like the most horrific adaptation, I'd say. And maybe that's just part of it. Just, sometimes when you watch a movie from 70s or the 20s, it's kind of hard to be really scared. In modern day, it's just like tastes change over time. People always say like Psycho was the most terrifying movie ever when they saw it in theaters, but now you watch it now, it's like, not that scary. But yeah, I thought it was too dimly lit. Didn't really think I could fully appreciate how incredible the production design and costume design was. One thing I mentioned about Herzog is I feel like Herzog did the best at making the city feel real. So like I love the shot that you see in the trailer of like, like the shadow going over the city, but I feel like I never felt the impending doom on the actual city of, this plague, this terror coming across the sea. Oh yeah. Final criticism. Sorry, I'm taking up a ton of time. I was really surprised at how, and I was talking with Marta about this, the voyage on the Demeter, the actual ship ride, was like so fast. I was like, wow, I'm so shocked that he spent like 2 minutes there. I thought he could have really done something cool with that boat ride. I mean, we obviously had a whole movie about it 2 years ago, but
voyage in the Demeter.
Yeah, but that whole ship ride, I was surprised at how quick that was. It's usually kind of like a very this the midpoint of this Nosferatu story is usually when it's coming from the plague is coming from Transylvania or whatever the made up name of it is, and this to Wismar or Winsberg, Germany or whatever. Again, the sound's name is it's confusing because there's different names for different adaptations. So I was a little disappointed with that, but again, the movie just kind of ended up being mostly what I expected it to be, with some really great performances, some incredible production and sound design and score. So there's a lot of highlights here, and it's more positive than negative. It's one that when I rewatch, I could see it going either way, but I ultimately, just as a summary, was a little disappointed by how cheap some of the scares felt. It was a little too dark and grayed out for my tastes, and just felt a little safe. And I don't want to say uninspired. People have been saying it's uninspired. I won't go that far. I'll just say it was a little safe. But yeah, 3.5 is where I'm at. Again, closer to 3 than a 4. Really disappointed because I really wanted to love it more. But again, I guarantee when I rewatch it, it's not going to be 3.5. Will it be a 3? Will it be a 4? Will it be something else? Who knows? But 3.5 is just kind of what slapped on it because I was so jumbled leaving the theater of, man, I love so much, kind of hated a lot. And we'll talk more about like Orlok's design and stuff when we get into more spoilers. But I'll leave it there for now.
George, you had on yours.
Yeah, I'm higher up on this than Tyler is. I absolutely love this. I'm glad I had a chance to rewatch it this week before the episode.
Oh yeah,
you were right, Seth. I watched it early December. My first log was December 2nd, so it's been a while. So I'm happy I'm coming into it fresh off of a rewatch because I watched it early, and when you watch like a movie early and you either give it a great rating or a bad rating, and then discourse comes out and, this movie ended up being a little more polarizing than I had anticipated. I wanted to revisit it because I wanted to be like, okay, maybe, I'm reading a lot of criticisms. I'm reading a lot of positive things as well. Let me see, is my rating going to stay the same, go up, go down? Ended up staying the same. I loved it just as much as I loved it the first time. Tyler, where you said like this feels like a Robert Eggers Nosferatu movie, that was kind of like my first impression of the film. And the first thing I said to Alex when we walked out was, that's either going to be a positive or a negative for someone. Like someone's going to either really love that this feels like a Robert Eggers Nosferatu film, or someone's not going to love that maybe he's not taking as many risks, past his typical style. But going into this movie, that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted to see Robert Eggers' version of Nosferatu, and I think that's exactly what he gave us. I think this feels like just Robert Eggers in all of his glory. He is so stunning visually, and I think his visual style pairs so well with a Nosferatu film. And it makes me giddy. It makes me so excited watching like his version of these cities and these characters and like this castle and, this folklore type screenplay unfold. Like, I think it just works really well for what Robert Eggers is able to kind of like deliver, and like just the way he's able to like shoot his films. I love and I very much admire his obsession with folklore and the occult, and I love that no matter the film, even if it's The Northman or The Lighthouse or The Witch or Nosferatu, there's so much folklore undertone. He's playing around with the occult, not as much in Nosferatu as he does in, let's say, like The Witch, but it's there, and I love that it's present. I think it adds such an unsettling and very spine-tingling like aura around his film. I like that this film really explores vampire mythology a little bit more. Not that previous Nosferatu films, but I've honestly only ever seen Bram Stoker's. I haven't seen the other two that you mentioned. But not that like Coppola didn't explore vampire mythology, but I think Eggers just kind of dove into it a little bit more, which again, going to be a positive or a negative for some people. I happen to love it. I absolutely adored Nosferatu in this movie. I loved Bill Skarsgård. I loved his design. I loved the mustache. I loved the voice. I loved everything about him.
Spoilers on the mustache.
Is that a spoiler?
I guess
I would say so.
Oh, all right. Pardon me. I didn't know that was a spoiler. We can cut that out if you want.
No, I'm saying not.
But yeah, I
he also has a beard and a goatee. We're throwing him off. What's true, what's not, you never know. You'll have to wait till the spoiler section.
True. But yeah, everything about this just kind of came together really well for me. I thought this was frightening, which is it's not something I've been hearing a lot of people say. I've seen a lot of people talk about, obviously, the design of the film, the design of Nosferatu, the acting, the performances, the aesthetic. Haven't seen anyone talk about this film's level of scary. I was frightened. Every very slow camera pan, I was like, holy fuck, like this is very unsettling, especially with that score in the background, which was like, it was like the perfect level of not in your face. It was just like an eerie tone that kind of hovered over this entire film, which I really fucking loved. The Voyage of the Demeter. I agree with you, Tyler. I do think that was not as long and drawn out as I would have liked it to be. But I do think there was more emphasis on this film on Dracula's kind of desire and want to find Ellen. So I don't think Eggers really wanted to spend too much time on things other than, you know, his relationship with Ellen and Thomas. But I did like that sequence. I thought it played out very well. Like I said, I just really like Nosferatu in this movie. I think Bill Skarsgård's absolutely fucking stunning, and I think everything about that iteration of the character just works really well in a Robert Eggers Nosferatu film. But yeah, I love this. I really did on first and second watch. It's as grotesque as you would expect a Robert Eggers movie to be. It's as dark as you would expect a Robert Eggers movie to be. It's like you said, Tyler. I close my eyes and I imagine a Robert Eggers Nosferatu movie. This is what I'm imagining. And for me, that's a wild positive. I think it's beautifully practically. I think it's beautifully CG'd. I think there's so much existential dread just kind of hovering over this entire movie. Lily Rose Depp is phenomenal. I said after my first watch that she was the best actress of the year, and I was curious to see if that would hold up after second watch. And after second watch, I think it's not even close. She is easily the best actress of the year. She's so emotionally charged. This is such a physical performance. And I absolutely loved it. I think she's fucking fantastic. Bill Skarsgård, I've been talking nothing, negative about. I think he's phenomenal. He's my number 2 supporting actor of the year behind Hemsworth in Furiosa. I think he is so good. I loved the voice. I thought the voice would kind of bother me at first because it is very slow. He does draw out his sentences and his words, and I thought that would bother me. But I actually found it to be quite consuming and very scary. And I think it works really, really well. And then, like you said, Tyler, I haven't seen the original 2 movies, but I can tell this movie is just paying so much homage to everything that Eggers is doing with the shadows and the cities and the plague and the rats. And it feels like a Robert Eggers movie that is also kind of appreciating the films that came before him. It feels like he took Nosferatu, made it his own, while still paying respects to, the previous iterations of this story. So I absolutely love this. It is still comfortably in my top 3 of the year. And then I'm happy on rewatch that it kind of stayed that high for me.
Yeah. I'm kind of aligned with George. I think that, as with George, I'm a big Eggers guy to begin with. And I think Tyler's absolutely right in saying that this is kind of how you would imagine a reimagining of Nosferatu, directed by Robert Eggers, would look. I think that I mentioned this in my review, a lot of the negatives people are saying, I understand, not necessarily that I agree with, in that, a lot of people have been calling it uninspired. I personally think I know George alluded to this as well, manages the balance of actually bringing his own vision and his own look at the story and the tale, especially when you look at the likes of Ellen's character and how that's handled, and more of the darker patch, like Tyler said, within the start of the film, whereas in the other ones it's kind of a bit more gleamy, and kind of balances it with showcasing, homages to not just Murnau's Nosferatu, but also Herzog's and Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula as well. And I also think I've seen a lot of people saying it was too long. Notably, this is, I think, the longest film of any of them, just ahead of Bram Stoker's Dracula, which is probably about like 2 hours, and this is like 2:15 or something like that. But for me, I think this works in a way where it kind of showcases that on something different. Like you have Lily Rose Depp, but Ellen's character, where it really, really hones down on the predation of the Count himself, and that kind of lingering presence is ever felt throughout. Like as soon as you see him for the first time, which I agree with George. I think it's like phenomenally creepy, the kind of introduction to the character. And especially when Nicholas Hoult is kind of getting the introduction and is staying there. I think that whole kind of extended sequence of like 30 minutes when he's there for the first time, it is fucking creepy as shit. And that introduction worked really well for me. And I think when I originally, like, this has been one of my most anticipated films for a long time. I think that when I imagined any director doing it for me, it would be Eggers, because I think he has a really, really sharp focus with his contrasts and using the darks, which is not great for some, like Tyler, but for me, it's always been a play that I've always enjoyed, especially when we look at the Northman and the Witch, most notably, obviously, with the lighthouse being in black and white. This is almost kind of like an almost black and white for a lot of it. It's like kind of that tinted focus, which I really, really like, but it's not for everyone. I can definitely see that as well. You have this array of cast members, which people have been, I've seen people say that Nicholas Hoult was bad. I've seen people say Nicholas Hoult was great. Aaron Taylor Johnson being like probably the most divisive performance, as well as probably Willem Dafoe. I liked everyone in this film. I'm with Tyler very much when it comes to Aaron Taylor Johnson. I think he's very earnest. I think he's really, really good, especially in the latter half. I think Willem Dafoe brings a kind of silliness to the original material, which is from the original material, and kind of brings that to the role, which you do need in a film like this. Nicholas Hoult, I'm actually not with Tyler. I actually really like Nicholas Hoult. I think he was great. I'm very much with both of you in terms of Lily Rose Depp. I think, considering, have I seen her in anything? Probably. Let me see this shit.
You definitely didn't watch The Idol.
Oh, I've seen her in Tusk, which is what so I'm not going to take too much from that. But yeah, like I think she was really, really good. I mean, originally, when we got the original news that Anya Taylor-Joy would be leaving due to scheduling issues, and then Lily Rose Depp would come in, I too was kind of disheartened to a certain extent, just because I didn't really know the potential and didn't really. It's a very powerful role to take on. It's a very physical role if you've seen the original works, and even more so probably in this one. I think Lily Rose Depp handles that truly incredibly, and this is just like powdered with Robert Eggers' vision, which again is for some, but I think, and he goes back to a discourse that was a few weeks ago on Twitter, which I mentioned. I don't think you can say that Robert Eggers doesn't have a vision, whether you like that or not. There's a clear focus within his films when you look at the strategy when it comes to visually and his obsessions with, like George said, witchcraft and the occult, which is a common theme throughout his films, especially more so in this one than maybe previous Nosferatu works, while also having these, the sequences, for example, when Count Orlok is going up the stairs with the shadow, which is, again, a homage that you kind of have to do. And I almost think it's like a lose if you do, lose if you don't situation, because if he didn't throw homage, people would be like, why are you kind of taking on another adaptation and disrespecting previous iterations? And if he did, which he did, it's like, okay, you need to have your own vision, which I think is always a hard one to balance. And also with Robert Eggers having so much love for the original material, this was always going to be the case. Like, if you went into this expecting him to just ignore it and just use a play-by-play of narrative beats without having these visual homages, I don't know what you were thinking, because this was always going to happen because of his love for the film. But yeah, I think it's dark, I think it's unflinching, I think it's creepy. And I also think, like George said, it kind of expands the vampire mythos and brings it back to, I think I said in my review, brings it back to the original vampire phase, whereas now vampires, for the past, outside of a few films here and there, it's been, kind of like the almost high school look, since the cultural impact of Twilight and things like that. It almost brings the vampire itself and the idea of a vampire back to its horrifying beginnings, which I really appreciated. I mean, we may as well say ratings as well. I think it's 3.5 for Tyler, like you said. George, 4.5. Me, 4.5. Currently sits at 5th for the year for me. I love it. I'm excited to watch it again when it comes out as well. Is there anywhere we kind of want to start with spoilers or anything we want to go for, anything like that? Should we start with, start with what George has already alluded to, the appearance of Orlok, which was the adaptation. I think when I went into this, it hadn't been spoiled, which is kind of a rarity to me because we know what kind of Twitter's like a lot. And I remember George mentioning this. I actually really like it. I still find it hard to believe that was Bill Skarsgård under all that shit, like crazy. And I think the voice really, really works for him. And I think he puts, he's all into the role. And I think that when you look at the previous Nosferatu, like when you look at Klaus Kinski's in the original, for example, they're slightly different each time. And I think this really, really works for me. Just to go back to my review. I think a lot of people as well, talking about the horniness of the film, because I don't think we mentioned that. It's certainly not like, it doesn't really have the, I guess, voyeuristic tendencies, sexual voyeuristic tendencies of like Nosferatu the Vampire or Bram Stoker's, obviously, of the original material. But I still think there's something there, and I think Eggers noticed that. And I think that what worked in his favor for me was Orlok's appearance. But yeah, what did you guys think of his appearance?
I thought it was sick. Even on second watch, I was like, that's not Bill Skarsgård. Like, it's just not. Like, I love that he just completely loses himself in these roles of like, even when he's playing Pennywise, like it's just, he's becomes unrecognizable.
He's like the character actor in a sense.
He's just slowly becoming like just the best monster character actor we've ever seen. It's like, it's unbelievable throughout the entire second film, the second viewing of this film. Yeah. Every time he's on screen, I'm trying to find anything that like would tell me that that's Bill Skarsgård if I didn't know. But like,
I'd be more likely to believe it was Willem Dafoe than Bill Skarsgård. Do you know what I mean? I don't know why. Like maybe.
True. But like he's just so consumed by this character, he loses himself in these beautiful prosthetic makeups and this voice, which like had to have been painful to like record or speak with this voice for however long this shooting went on for. Like, it's absolutely insane. Even the way he walks, the way he moves, the way he's like, his hands are like mangled and like pointing in like weird ways. Like, everything about it is just so insane. Like, I cannot believe that is Bill Skarsgård.
Yeah, people are saying he fried his vocal cords, and he Austin Butlered himself. His interviews post the like, there's like, I've seen like people like vocal coaches stitching it or talking about it and be like, yeah, he might have done like irreparable damage to his vocal cords going forward just from doing this role, which is like weird because one of those that he is so CG'd, or not so CG'd, so like covered in prosthetics to where like you easily could have just like in the booth just record the lines afterwards, and like you probably would never know, especially because the first like 50% of the time he's on the screen, it's so dark to where you'll never even see his face really moving, that like they could have just like pitched down his voice a bit. Maybe they did. I'm sure they did some sort of modulation, a teeny bit, but like I feel like he's the type that wants to do everything so practically that probably to his detriment to where he probably fried his vocal cords. But I didn't
just for the love of the game.
Yeah, exactly. He's like how Andy Serkis is the motion capture he is for playing like prosthetic villains. But I think the design worked for what Eggers is going for here. He's not really going for the seductive vampire angle. He's more going for, this is much more possession. Like, there's elements, that's why I think so like Lily Rose Depp for the first half, she just seems like straight up possessed, and then like when Nicholas Hoult gets back, there's a little bit of like the horniness comes out of like how it is possessed by this sexual desire. But it's, I don't know, this is much more felt like more a possession film, like a typical horror than previous Dracula adaptations. So I think for that it works because you didn't have like Nosferatu and Nosferatu the Vampire were like creepy looking guys, but they were guys nonetheless. Like, they were very oddball creeps. I think the Nosferatu the Vampire was like just a creepy looking guy, very weird. Nosferatu in 1922 was like a creepy looking guy that pushes it a little further than that. But then Bram Stoker's Dracula has, he looks very normal, Gary Oldman, suave.
Well, normal is a push. Guy was fucking weird, to be fair. Gary Oldman was fucking
with like his long hair and his top hat, and but then you also have like, then you have them maked up and caked in prosthetics. You have like the 50-50. This is going for, I mean, connection with Bill Skarsgård. The first thing I thought of was like, oh, this is like Barbarian, like an old decaying person. Like, it felt very like, I don't know, A24 is not a genre, but I was like, this is like what like an A24 design. I feel like, which is like the stupidest thing to say, but it's just like I just feel like the decrepit, decaying body. Again, it worked for what they were going for. I didn't love the mustache. I know people are mixed on the mustache. I'm not a fan, but it's whatever. It was different.
I loved it. Every time blood dripped from it, I was like, "This is fucking cool."
Yeah,
like
when he's dripping.
It's just like a gross addition that, like, again, just I think fits Robert Eggers' like just very gross vibe. Like, every time blood dripped from that mustache, I was like, that's disgusting, and it works really well for like who Robert Eggers is as a filmmaker and like his like very like small creative choices that just add to this like really grotesque environment.
Yeah, I think it's not.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Ty, go on.
I was just gonna say the biggest issue I had, I guess, with the appearance was how much Eggers felt like he knew the appearance was crazy, so that therefore the first 30 minutes of seeing Count Orlok on screen, we never even saw his face because they made it so dark. I think the making a grand reveal was at the detriment of, I really love in previous adaptations when Thomas Hutter's at the castle and having the dinner and getting creeped out by Orlok. I feel like there was a little detriment to this of being so obsessed with the reveal and the shock of it that it kind of made that scene a little less. It was still creepy as hell. Don't get me wrong. I was scared the whole time, but I don't know. I just feel like that reveal, he kind of wanted to make it such a big thing that I wish we just saw it early. I wish we did. You see it in the first 5 seconds of the movie with that first jump scare, but I don't know. They just kept him in the dark for so long. I just wanted to just see him so we could actually see the scenes.
Yeah, I think that's like whether you buy into Eggers' style though, because again, it's something I kind of anticipate with him, because we obviously had a lot of discussion when it, the early reactions were out about Bill Skarsgård, and I kind of anticipate, having this build up, which I think is done very well, but I can definitely see why that'd be a detriment to some. And I also think it's one of those things where it's like, if you have a character like, Orlok, where you've had, a lot of different interpretations of him visually, I like that Eggers went for something at least a little bit different, rather than just sticking with, for example, a similar look to Klaus Kinski's, for a perfect example, where it's kind of like a normal size looking guy, you know what I mean? So I appreciate went for something, and I think, like, you have like the mustache and this decrepit, like almost rundown, similar to what he said, like a human who's been living like, in a basement for like 50 years.
In a coffin.
I like, in a coffin. I like that. And I think that it showcases like a little bit of a push towards a different angle. And it's one of them, if you have a different angle of such a famed character that's had many interpretations, it's going to be one where, similar to what I said earlier with reference points, people will have a love or hate it. But I appreciate they did something different. And I for one, because I love the look of the character, and, not to put words in your mouth, but I imagine this is the same for you, Tyler, because I love the look of it. I almost loved the build-up of it, because when that reveal was there, I was, it's fucking cool. And when, we had the initial interaction with him, when Nicholas Hoult goes for the first time, I was anticipating that so much. Whereas when you had the reveal, you didn't like certain bits of it, you preferred previous iterations, which is fine. It might have not been made as, impactful for you. So it made me like the build-up even more eventually. That makes sense.
Yeah.
What do you want to cover?
I don't know. I think the big detriment for me was watching all the Nosferatu adaptations the day before, because it is a Nosferatu adaptation, which, again, like, it's just like an Eggers adaptation, which Eggers fans are going to like more than non. But it's just like everything that happens, like, yep, I know where the next scene's going. Yep, next scene, then the movie ends. I'm like, yep, that's exactly what I expected the whole movie. And again, that's an adaptation of a novel, of a movie. So it's like, it can't be like a criticism, but I'm just saying, I think it wasn't the best idea for me to binge all the Nosferatu movies before then, because also, like, so many shots, which I'm like the last person in the world to talk about like film history and homages. Like, my film bag's not that deep. I'm not like a true critic of people who actually know stuff. So I'm like the last person to make these critiques, but it's like, I can see why people get to the point where people can call them like annoying when they always like bring up stuff like that, because it's like, when you see people tweet like, oh, this shot of the carriage going to the castle is crazy. It's like, yeah, that's just a shot that's already been done before. Like I love how I saw someone saying, like, I love how this iteration focuses on how it like brings the plague to Germany. I'm like, I just watched all the other 3 the other day, and like at least 2 of them were like about the plague coming with the rats to Germany. So I was like, it's just, I can see how people would get annoying when you like actually build that film bag so deep to where, like, when people are saying this is so revolutionary, you're like, actually, it's just like, it's just something that's been done before. But again, it's a passion project. He loves Nosferatu. This is like his thing that he's wanted to do his whole life, and it's he got to do it. So huge congrats to him. I'm happy this movie's doing well. It's like a good movie to be doing well in theaters. Like, it's a mid-budget horror film. It's not original, but it's not slop. Cam would call it slop because there's been other Nosferatu.
Cam would call it slop.
It's Cam slop, but it's not like MCU. You know what I mean? It's not the same.
It's ReelTok slop.
It's good. It's good. It's a good thing to be making money in theaters. I'm glad people are excited about it. I think there's a lot of positives for it, for sure.
I definitely I understand where people are coming from, because I think the difficulty is, and it's the same with anything where you have a film where it's essentially beat for beat narrative wise. It's not exactly the same as some of the other iterations, but it's it follows the same pattern. You know, it's from a book, and this is what you have to establish. And there's been so many, you're going to have these visual homages that, again, when compared, and I mentioned this to my review, F.W. Murnau has made, I think, some of the best looking films of all time, most notably Faust and Nosferatu, and also Sunrise, and many more others. Tyler, if you actually love the original, I'd really recommend going into some of his filmography. Like, he's made some of the best art films ever, which is not a hot take as well, the most common thing ever. But and Herzog especially, like, these are two visual masterminds, but from different eras. And I think that, to count, you know, as a counterpoint as well, one thing I see on Twitter a lot, and again, it comes back to Twitter discourse, is a case of people, you know, making these comparisons of shots, which is fine, you can do that, but then also putting down Eggers, where he has a different, you know, a distinct style, and every filmmaker who's made a Nosferatu film has a different style, and then just saying, you know, this one looks so much better. And it's like, in reality, they're different. You know, the color's different, the world's different, the feel's different. You can say one is better than the other for sure, and you know, I've done that as well, and we can make comparisons. But I also think that Eggers kind of set himself up for failure in some people, where it's like he'll never be able to live up to visual masterminds such as Coppola, Herzog, Murnau.
I mean, crazy company to be in. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, you can't, you know, make these comparisons. You know, when people are putting across things, comparing, like, for example, the shot you just made, or some others with Murnau's and Herzog's, when you are in a different era, and the films as a whole have a different feel. So I think it's easy to go off face value when you're seeing a shot by shot on Twitter without actually seeing the film first or understanding the feel of it. So I think that it's difficult because the comparisons are obviously going to be made, and that's fair because you're going to subconsciously do it. There was another film we reviewed recently where it was the same thing. Did we review anything recently? It was like a remake or something?
Possibly.
I feel like we had this conversation, right? I mentioned
Wicked, Wizard of Oz could be, honestly.
Yeah, I think it was. I should be fair. It's similar to that, where it's hard to. You kind of shouldn't draw comparisons because, again, it's a different film, but you're always going to, and that's fine. And I do it as well. But I do think people, especially with Eggers, Eggers is becoming the new James Gunn, it feels like. It does a Twitter discourse where people are just piling on him. And it's like, you know, if you don't like him, cool. If you like him, cool. You know, he doesn't have to be the worst filmmaker on earth for reimagining a film that he loves. You know what I mean? I feel like people are going down that route similar to, like, with James Gunn, you know?
Yeah. No, he's starting to get hated for sure. Or not hated, but starting to get divisive, where, like, I feel like Northman started a bit because people were like, oh, he's getting a little too commercial, which I disagree with. But I mean, when The Witch and the Lighthouse came out, and I'm sure at the time there was like discourse, but you know, he of the modern like horror, like the trilogy of the guys, it's always been Ari Aster's the divisive guy. And that's like, we got Peele and Eggers and the more normals. Yeah. Now Eggers is getting in that divisive territory where I feel like Aster is probably because Beau's Afraid was so batshit insane that it's like, we need someone to be like a normal divisive guy, because Aster's like so like off the deep end of like crazy divisive, that we need like Peele's like the normal one. Nope. I mean, Nope got divisive too. What's happening to our goats? They're all starting to fall from grace at this point.
Yeah, it's like with Eggers as well. It's like
they're not falling from grace; they're just taking more risks.
No, I know.
I don't know if Eggers is like. It's
no,
like,
Eggers is the safest of the three. That's what I want to say.
Yeah, I said this in my YouTube. I think this is simultaneously Eggers' most accessible film, but also his biggest feat in what he's tried to do here. In terms of reimagining Nosferatu, because there's always a talk about, but I think it's his most accessible. But then again, it's like, how have we come to the point now where Eggers is so divisive? Yeah, watch any of his films. If you thought that a Nosferatu directed by Robert Eggers was going to be any different, like, I don't know how much brain you have. Like,
that's a you problem.
It's a common theme. You know, you have Lighthouse, The Witch, The Northman, very, very common theme. Okay, The Northman was a bit more a commercial thing. It's a film that I really like, but I get why people don't. This is going to remain in Eggers. This is his thing. You know what I mean? This is the way he likes to do things. Whether you like that or not, that's fine. You know, you don't have to like everyone. But if you expect any different from a Nosferatu, I don't really know what you expected, especially with his lifelong love for the original work and the material.
That's why, like, half my criticism, like, it's not really fair to put this on notes, because, like, one of the things I don't like how like grayscale it is. That's just Eggers. That's not a Nosferatu thing. That's just like that's all of his films. I don't love some of the way that the film is shot. Again, it's just like that's Eggers' style. So it's like, I get why people who love Eggers love this more, but it's yeah, like you said, I think Eggers is like the safest of the three, which is not like a negative or positive. I just mean in terms of like, he has his style locked down, which is cool for a modern director to see them keep doing stuff and working his way through eras like he is. Whereas I'd say Peele even has his line. Like, I mean, Nope, I guess, is a risk, but like thematically very in line with like Us and Get Out. Whereas like Aster's the one who's like, every film is like, because now he's doing like a Western. Like Aster's the one where you put a bunch of stuff in a bag and you pull something out and you never know what you're going to get with the film from him, which so I think he's like the one who takes the most risk of the three, which is why
I think Nope was
like
a bit of I think Nope was quite a big swing though, to be fair.
I think it's a swing in terms of
to like Get Out and all. I think it's a massive swing.
But I still think underlying thematic elements were pretty
for sure.
Yeah. But I mean, back to Nosferatu, I think again Lily Rose Depp was awesome. I was honestly for half the film I was prepared to like not hate on her performance but tamper expectations a bit, because I was like, oh, the first half was like she's just being a person possessed. Like, what's that impressive with this? And then the second half, like you get the bouncing back between possessed and non-possessed, which really sets it apart. But I thought that was so funny when, like, I don't know, that one again. I'm not trying to have like hater energy, but that one tweet was like, there was no CGI used for Lily Rose Depp's possession scenes. I'm like, no fuck.
That was a.
She rolled her eyes back and stuck her tongue. What are we doing here? I will say in one scene, I was like, is that tongue stretching? I was like, no, I think she's wiggling around a bit. But no, cool. Again, he went for the more possession route. I was very surprised. Willem Dafoe came in this movie way later than I thought. Like, I was like, when's Dafoe man coming?
It's got to be like an hour and like 15 hour and 20 minutes when he was there.
Yeah, which again, like with what his role is, like he usually doesn't come until later, but. I don't know. I think in the other ones, the doctor checks in maybe a little earlier with Ellen.
I think
again,
it
was like
it's hard to know though because of how much longer this is than like
the
Vampire and the original one.
But Defoe's like that guy for Eggers. So I was like, when's the Willem guy?
Well, we say that, but Northman Defoe was in for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, that is fair. That is
crazy scene. Like he just had that scene in the like wherever
the cave, wherever that was.
Yeah.
And obviously we got the news that it was confirmed that. And let's be honest, anyway, that he's going to get Defoe next to, and I imagine it'll just be like the same thing. So this is actually a bigger role, much bigger role than he had in the Northman, but it was still later than I expected for sure.
Yeah, it's a movie that I don't want to rain on people's praise too much. You know, I liked it, didn't love it. I'm really interested to hear what Cam's thoughts would be. So whenever he comes back, did he review it, or did he do like? I didn't even see the 2.5. I'm just trusting George's.
Okay, he reviewed it. Yeah, I'll read his review.
Yeah, read his review because I don't know. George, you have anything else to say on Nosferatu?
No, that's it.
Okay.
All right, cool. Let me
read the Cam Walsh review.
Look, I'm basically literate, so I'm not going to write out this long, eloquent review. You like that word, big boy? Right?
No way.
Here's the thing: it's just not a movie I enjoy. Bram Stoker's Dracula, but worse. It's bad Stoker's Dracula. This is like. Open brackets, told this joke 3 times tonight and my wife threatens to leave me. Close brackets, great. Start with the good. Lily Rose Depp and Aaron Taylor Johnson. What do they both have in common? Three names and fantastic performance in this film. He's an Aaron Taylor Johnson guy. So
the most divisive by far, but surprisingly, Willem Dafoe is also up there, like you were mentioning, Seth. He's also divisive.
Yeah, he is for sure. Every technical aspect through and through is awesome. Counter looks voice is really fun. Sit and listen to. Can feel that it's not fun, it's fucking creepy. Can feel a sense of dread throughout. Now some bad. Disliked Willem Dafoe. Okay, he disliked Willem Dafoe.
Okay.
He's on that side with that one. Which is weird because I've never felt like that in my entire life. Hated Nicholas Holt's character. Felt like he was so stupid the entire time. Probably the point, but I didn't like it. Fair enough. Was talking to my good friend Tyler. Shout out, Tyler Whitmore. Before the film about how I'd probably piss my pants every jump scare, and he said, "Now they're not that bad." He was correct with downplaying it. They kind of stunk. So I was actually more scared. Me and George were more scared than Cam was, which is interesting. Never felt much love for most of these characters. I'm sure there are some other stuff, but this is hitting my brain word limit. Sometimes it's just the feeling, and with this one, I really wasn't feeling it. 52 out of 100, 2.5 for Cameron, which is interesting. I don't actually know how high Cameron is on Eggers' other work. Do we know?
I don't really know if he's seen all that.
Has he seen Eggers' other work?
He's seen The Northman, surely.
I don't know, but I don't think he's that high on Eggers. He never talks about him ever. So
I'm assuming he probably hasn't seen. He probably wouldn't have seen The Witch, would he? Because he's seen The Northman. He gave it 4 stars, so that's all we have.
Okay.
But yeah, so 4.5 for me, 4.5 for George, 3.5 for Tyler, 2.5 for Cam, and
people say we always just agree.
People say we always shout out honorary ReelTok member Alex Coleman. I think it was his number 1 of the year, so that's kind of cool. Oh, actually, good point. Before we go into it, again, this is one. This is like a Jordan Peele ranking, where it's all over the place, and Ari Aster's even more so. Robert Eggers ranking. George, go first.
I think The Northman is my 4, just because it's the one I haven't seen in the longest amount of time. They're all good. These are all great movies, by the way. I really love Robert Eggers. I think I go with The Lighthouse at 3, The Witch at 2, and Nosferatu at 1.
Interesting. Okay, Tyler.
Shit. Here you go. I always forget the last two. What I have.
The Northman at 4. Again, I love all these films. The Northman at 4. Nosferatu at 3, The Lighthouse at 2, and The Witch at 1. Which I'm starting to find is quite a controversial opinion, but I love The Witch. It's one I've watched the most as well.
Well, The Witch is we did one of our earlier real quicks on The Witch.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good fucking movie.
Number 4 for me is The Witch at 3.5. Number 3 is Nosferatu at a 3.5. Number 2, The Lighthouse at a 4. Number 1, The Northman at a 4.
Nice. Okay.
Why are you a hater, bro?
Yeah, you're such a hater.
It is silly whenever I post that, like people are like, "How do you have the Northman at 1?" I'm like, the Northman at 1 is the most like logical thing for someone who's not an Eggers guy.
Yeah,
like that just makes perfect sense.
It is. Also, you could rearrange his filmography in any way, and I would not be upset.
I mean, yeah, my 1 to 4 was 4 to 3.5, all 4. Yeah. So it's like, what are we doing here? We're splitting hairs.
I'm still a Eggers over Peel and Astor for me. I'm still on the Eggers train.
I didn't think that was a shock. I thought you were like super champion of Eggers. I would expect that.
I am, but funny enough, I actually haven't got any 5 stars. Maybe I should watch The Witch again because
that's the thing. I have, because Peel I have no at a 5. I think I removed my rating from Get Out because I haven't seen it in a while, but I'd imagine it's be a 4.5 or 5. Eggers has 4.5, 4.5, 4.5, 4.
I have Eggers has 4.5, 4.5, 4.5, 4 for me.
Yeah.
And then it's like Peel 4.5, 4.5, 3.5. And then,
I give
Astor is crazy.
4.
Astor's is 4.5, 3.3. So it's like a big drop.
Astor for me is 5, 4.5, 2.5.
I'm just that annoying asshole who loves Ari Aster. I'm sorry. So he's my goat.
I respect it. We will move on. I think, like, obviously, this is one for you guys. Do you want to cover? Actually, no.
Complete Unknown.
Yeah. Bob Dylan is king. Also, Bob Dylan's best album is Freewheeling Bob Dylan. Just getting out there. I'll let you guys review this. I don't want to hear it because I want to watch the film. We'll speak to you bye.
All right. See you in a bit.
All right. We'll text you in a bit.
George, you got this? I got the synopsis up. I can read it.
Yeah. I don't know.
A Complete Unknown, directed by James Mangold. The life of Bob Dylan, portrayed by Timothée Chalamet. New York, early 1960s. Against the backdrop of a vibrant musical scene and tumultuous cultural upheaval, an enigmatic 19-year-old from Minnesota arrives in the West Village with his guitar and revolutionary talent, destined to change the course of American music. Yep, that's all we got for that. George, thoughts?
Oh my god, I can't wait to hear you. I mean, I know your thoughts on this. I just can't wait to hear it come from your mouth instead of from like a letterbox review. I am more mixed on this movie. I think I lean a little tad bit more positive because I think Timmy is so fucking good in this movie. I think Bob Dylan has such a distinct persona, distinct vibe, distinct voice. And I didn't think even the great Timothée Chalamet would be able to kind of like capture that as well as he did. So he really does hold together a screenplay that doesn't necessarily offer a lot. I also think just my general love of Bob Dylan, folk music, his impact on folk music, the way he just kind of completely redefined this genre in the 60s and 70s. And then his eventual turn to rock and roll. I think he has a really cool story in music. But what I was telling a lot of people is Bob Dylan doesn't really have a cool story in general. Like it's not like this like rags to riches story. It's like he was just a dude that was good at music. There was no like big controversy around like making his first album, releasing his first album. He was just making folk music, doing what he loves. And like the biggest, like, I guess, cool thing about him is that he's just an asshole. So I think like a Bob Dylan biopic just, I don't know if it's ever going to work because he just doesn't have that interesting of a story. The most interesting aspect of his life, in my humble opinion, is his relationship with Joan Baez. And this movie glosses over that so insanely. This movie basically makes his relationship with Joan Baez, it dumbs it down to they have sex and they sing together, and that's it. Where in reality, that was one of the most like prominent and prolific relationships in music for like 2 decades. They were just the talk of the town. I hate that I said that. I tried to think of something else, but like their relationship was so high, so low, so chaotic, so emotional, and the movie just doesn't do enough to like give me that attachment to both of these characters and their story. So that part I was a little upset about. The movie also just moves so fast. We cover so much time. And this is more of just a biopic as of late problem I have. It's not a problem I have specifically with A Complete Unknown. It's a problem I have with pretty much every biopic being made nowadays, where they just try to cover so much time in such a small runtime of a film. Like this movie only clocks in at like, I mean, I say only, but it clocks in at like 2:15 maybe. And they try to cover like a decade of his life, from like releasing his first album not being successful, Blowing in the Wind releasing, him blowing up, his relationship with Joan, his relationship with Sylvie, his eventual move to rock and roll, his like decade stint at Newport Music Festival. Like they just try to cover so much, and again, it's obviously a problem I have with this movie, but it's also just a problem I have with biopics recently, where they just try to cover so much time and nothing is fleshed out. Like it's a very Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at screen, like, oh, there's Cafe Wha, there's where Bob Dylan used to play. Oh, there's the Music Inn, there's where Bob Dylan used to go and play music and buy his instruments and, you know, retune his instruments and blah, blah, blah. Oh, there's Newport, there's Johnny Cash, and like shit like that. It's just very like point at screen. If you like Bob Dylan, maybe you'll be giddy enough to love like this film, which luckily I am. I love Bob Dylan. I love his music. I love folk music. So I have no problem listening to Timothée Chalamet sing and just fucking dive into this persona as well as he did for 2 hours and 20 minutes straight. It is very surface. It is very shallow. But just because of Timmy and just because of my love of Bob Dylan, I think I lean like very slightly more positive. I will never rewatch this movie because I think on rewatch it could be a half star. So for what it's worth, on after first watch, I really did like I won't say I really did like this movie. I lean more positive. There are things I loved. There are things I did not love. I love that they captured the aesthetic of 60s New York and Greenwich Village so brilliantly. I think that's at least what James Mangold does very well. He captures the aesthetic of Bob Dylan's life and this environment that played such an instrumental role in his upbringing and his like, you know, just the way he like kind of moves about life. James Mangold does a really good job at kind of like immersing you in the world that Bob Dylan kind of grew up in and made a name in. Outside of Timmy, I don't really care for any of the acting performances. I think Monica Barbaro is great. But other than that, like Elle Fanning, I think she's just fine. Again, there's just not much there emotionally. I don't really care for her character emotionally. But yeah, it's like a very fine movie. It's not the worst biopic we've seen over the last couple of years. It's certainly not the best biopic we've seen over the couple of years. I ended up with a 3-star. Could probably go down to 2.5 if I ever do rewatch it, which I likely will not. So we'll keep it at a 3 for now. Timmy's really good. I am confident he'll be nominated for an Oscar. I do think Adrien Brody in The Brutalist is still the favorite, especially as we move across award season. Adrien Brody's the one that's been picking up a lot of the Best Actor awards and not Timmy. So I think Adrien Brody has put himself in that favorite position, but I think Timmy's number 2, and I think it's fairly close in terms of like the Oscar race right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's impressive. So I give this a 2 star. It's impressive to give a film that low of a score when I truly do think Timothée Chalamet is one of the best performances of the year. You know, it's cheap. It's a biopic. You know, what is it called? Like just you kind of bottom of the barrel scraping for like it's easy to get a good performance out of a biopic. So you know, easy pickings there, but still. he's so great. He obviously is one of the best actors of his generation, if not the best actor of his generation. And he knocks out of the park what is kind of like an impossible role. And I think he does brilliantly. I think Monica Barbaro, how about that Joan Baez, folks? She's pretty, sings pretty, maybe a little too pretty. That trailer's been playing way too many times. But yeah, really, I thought she was exceptional. Want to see more of her and stuff. And Elle Fanning, I think, is one of the best actresses working today as well. But like you said, I don't think she's bad in this. I think she just wasn't given anything to do. She was just kind of like Sylvie was just there.
Nothing to work with.
Which like you could rationalize and say, well, that's kind of what she was to Bob Dylan's life. She's kind of just there while he did other stuff. And I don't know. I feel like it's a little cheap cop out. But if James Mangold was intentionally doing this, then sure, maybe he gets a little credit of like Bob Dylan being this like mysterious artist, a complete unknown's the title. And people are like, oh, you don't know much about him or where he came from, but it's just like not really true. Like maybe it's because like I grew up in Minnesota where like, he's a Minnesota guy and it's like people just know him a little more, maybe his backstory a little more. Like the movie treats him literally. The movie treats him as like someone who like poof, like magically appeared at age 19 with a guitar in New York City. It just he has no backstory, no family, no life. Like it literally treats him like he was just like conjured up with a potion. But like I don't know, we knew of him in Minnesota, like and like his roots and like what he did growing up, and like I don't know, I'm mixing up stories, but I believe he was like a babysitter for like this like family. I don't know. There's like stuff that like people knew about him in Minnesota, but they just treat him as like he just plops in New York, meets what were the names, Pete Seeger and Woody Guthrie. And they kind of discover him, and Pete Seeger kind of takes him under his wing. And this movie's just it just plays the highlights. This is you go to school, if you want to do like biopic making 101, this is what they teach you in class. They'll be like, have some headlines on newspapers, have a radio going on in the background saying a Cuban Missile Crisis. You're like, oh, it's probably during that time right now. It's just like have the little clues drop of when the time is, play the highlights of their life, have like people like Johnny Cash show up so you can point your screen like, oh shit, Johnny Cash, I know him. And yeah, this really almost felt like more of a concert movie than a movie, because I feel like I walked out of it truly knowing like less about Bob Dylan. Like I said, I'm going into it because I'm not a Bob Dylan guy. I'm not steeped in the lore. I've heard of him a lot just due to growing up in Minnesota, and he's just kind of like, it's like Bob Dylan and Prince. Those are like the two Minnesota goats for like musicians to come out of that state. So you kind of just growing up there, about them. But when the final like text at the end of the credits played, is like Bob Dylan's still recording music today. He recorded like 700 albums, whatever insane status. I was like, I didn't know that at all. This movie made it seem like he was a dude who just plopped on the scene, made a couple albums, and then no one knows anything about his impact. And he wins a Nobel Prize or whatever, doesn't even show up. Like we get like, I learned so much from those final end texts that I just got nothing from the movie. The movie basically showed like, yeah, he made folk music and then actually he made rock music later, kind of an asshole. And I don't know, just didn't treat women right. Like it's this movie just didn't do justice to Bob Dylan, I feel like. And again, I'm not a huge Bob Dylan guy, so I'm not like offended by that or anything.
But like that's the thing, like it did do justice to like Bob Dylan, like the person, but again, he doesn't have a story. Like there's nothing interesting about who, and I don't mean this in like a derogatory. I'm not trying to shit on Bob Dylan right now. Like he makes great music. He is the greatest folk artist of all time. Mm-hmm. There's just nothing there. Like there's nothing interesting about his story. The most interesting thing is that he is just an anti-establishment dickhead. Like that's it. Like he never had like whatever drug problems. He never had blah, blah, blah. He never beat his wife, the sexual assault allegations, nothing. Like he was just a dude that was an asshole that made really good music.
Yeah. And I'd be interested to see, because I know people kind of say like, what's that Coen Brothers movie with Oscar Isaac?
Oh, Inside Llewyn Davis?
Yeah, I know people say like that's somewhat like a Bob Dylan light kind of story, but I also know I'm not there. The Todd Haynes with Cate Blanchett playing Bob Dylan. I want to see that as well, see what they bring to the table. But this felt like a concert movie, and the fact that there's just songs playing all the time is like performance after performance after performance, going to studio record stuff. Like it just, I feel like after the Elvis movie, even though Elvis suffers the same problems all biopics do, where you walk away and you're like, man, they really glossed over a lot of his shitty stuff. you at least walked over, like I walked away from the Elvis movie, which again, some of you knew beforehand, but at least the movie kind of shows, yeah, you know, the drug addiction, gaining all the weight, being a predator basically to Priscilla, the cheating, the divorce, like you get like his life. And again, maybe there's Bob Dylan just doesn't have it that interesting of a life compared to Elvis, but I think there was at least stuff you could put in here other than just what we get. And I enjoyed.
Keep going.
I was gonna say I enjoyed it. One comment I saw on like Twitter, I think, which like I kind of agree with, is like, I don't want to be like anti-progress and like an old head, but I kind of like the nice little folk music they were playing. And when the rock music came, I'd probably been one of the people in the crowd booing. I'm like, I don't know if I'd boo, but I like, you know, the final song's playing. I'm like, man, I kind of like the Newport Folk Festival. Like, what happened to my goat? The Newport, the NFF. I don't want to get this hooligan out of here playing this rock, playing electric guitars. But yeah, good music throughout the movie. Fun. Timothy Chalamet's voice is good.
That's what that's also one thing that like makes me lean a little more positive. I feel like there was so much more of like Bob Dylan singing in this movie than like I feel like Timmy as Bob Dylan sang so much more in this movie than like Taron Egerton as Elton John did in Rocket Man, or Freddie Rami Malek as Freddie Mercury did in Bohemian Rhapsody. Like most of this movie was him just singing, whether it was at a concert, in a studio, on his bed, in a bar. Like Timmy is really singing, and that's part of the movie that I really liked, where, again, I'm just a huge Bob Dylan fan, so give me all Timmy as Bob Dylan as possible. But back to, like, Bob Dylan and his life just not being that interesting, again, it just comes down to, like, what they chose to kind of, like, gloss over. I wish, obviously, he has such a interesting relationship with Susie, who was renamed to Sylvie in the movie, but he has such an interesting relationship with Susie. But like you said, like Susie to Bob Dylan, like she was just there. Like he meant way more to her than she meant to him, which I think they nailed that aspect in the movie. But his relationship with Joan Baez is one I wish they didn't elect to just kind of like gloss over, because that really is like, that's the crux of his music. That's what he writes about. You know, that's where his emotion comes from. That's where him being an asshole comes from. So I just wish that was one part of the movie that they didn't necessarily gloss over. And not that they glossed over. Obviously, Joan Baez was in the movie a good chunk. She was just kind of like there on a very shallow level. Like there was nothing to the performance or the writing around her character that I think was like worthy of, you know, portraying their actual relationship. But yeah, I lean more positive. Timmy is so good, man. He's so good. I don't mean to be hyperbolic, but he's on his way to being the GOAT. He's so good.
Would he be my best actor pick this year? No. Would I be upset if he wins? No, obviously not at all. I wouldn't be.
He's not my best actor pick. He's not even in my top 5. I think K Meeks, someone tweeted this the other day where it was like, I think even if you have a movie with a really, really great performance, if the movie's not good, I don't think they should be considered for acting Oscars. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I can't give you examples. Like, I can't think of a really bad movie where there's an Oscar-worthy like performance. And if there is, let me know. But like, I just off the top of my head, I can't. But as I was putting together my best actor awards, like my top 5 rankings, I kept obviously I kept coming back to Timothy Chalamet and A Complete Unknown, but I was like, am I really going to remember this movie in a year? Like, obviously, like Timmy's great and I love him. And if he wins the Oscar, I will stand up and applaud. But like, I left him out of my top 5 kind of for that reason, actually, just because the movie was not that great. Or at least it wasn't as good as I think it should be for someone to be considered for, an Academy Award.
Yeah, and I think Monica Barbaro is great as well, but I think I agree with what you're saying, that reading stuff after the movie, it's like Joan Baez and Joan Baez and Bob Dylan, such a complicated and complex relationship that transcended physical touches, like just their music and how much it influences both their styles. I feel like in the movie we just more so they go on tour at the same times together, they hook up here and then, they trade songs once in a while. When they sing together, it sounds really, I just feel like that was a much more deep relationship in real life that impacted the music and the folk of the time that just didn't fully come across this movie. So I just think it was really shallow as far as a movie goes. It was just bland. I don't know, just uninteresting for the most part. It's just not it's a movie that, like, if you want to just throw on, like, this would be a great, like, folding laundry movie, because again, it's just like great music. You just listen to fun music basically the whole time. You probably, like, runtime wise, you're getting more music than you are actual just like dialogue with no music. So but I mean, Boyd Holbrook, I thought as Johnny Cash is pretty electric. You know, he gets a couple scenes here.
It was cool.
His aura was, I mean, just using the guitar as a gun. First time you see him on the screen, it's like, yeah, this dude's got it. Scoot McNairy, kind of like a funny role for him to take. It was Woody Guthrie, where it's like, why are you getting Scoot McNairy in your movie if you're just gonna, like, sit in a bed and not speak and just, like, be dying the whole time? It's like, do you need Scoot McNairy for that? And Edward Norton, what an interesting performance from him. Kind of derogatory, but like, what? Edward Norton, are you washed? Question mark.
It was just like such a nothing. Like, it wasn't bad or good. He was just there.
When's the last time he's done anything notable? Has he been washed?
I mean, I think he's been
Glass
washed.
Onion, I guess, he was in Asteroid City. He's done all the Wes Anderson stuff, but so I guess, but those are supporting roles. Last time he had a lead role was Glass Onion, which
he might be.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't good. Yeah, he might be.
The role itself was just kind of like, he wasn't good, he wasn't bad, but like, why would you get Edward Norton to play such a nothing character?
I mean, to be fair, like, it was almost a similar, like, role as to what, like, Tom Hanks had to do, and he was way better than Tom Hanks was, so
I guess, but like, Tom Hanks at least had to, like, transform. I mean, obviously we don't love his performance, but at least Tom Hanks, like, made it something. Edward Norton just was there. He just played Edward Norton, and not in a good way.
Yeah, it's just funny because this movie really is biopic 101. Just the whole, like, Edward Norton inviting him over to his house, and, like, at first the wife being like, oh, who's this dingy guy trying to smoke in our house? And then, like, the next morning he's, like, playing his guitar, and they both look at him with that glowing eyes, like, oh, this is the next guy. It's like, this is so the type of biopic someone would make in a movie, like, within a movie. Like, it's so, like, rose-colored glasses silly that it's like, holy shit, it's Bob Dylan. Like, this guy's the GOAT. But yeah, I don't really have anything else. Obviously, there's no spoilers to this. He plays rock music at the end, and people get mad.
Yeah, that's it.
But yeah,
that's the movie.
Is this a new Newport Folk Festival still a thing?
I don't think so. Let's see.
2025. Yeah, 2025 Newport Folk Festival, July 25th to July 27th.
Wow, yeah. Who's performing? Let's see the 2024 lineup. Wow, they had Adrian Lenker, actually. That's sick.
Is it new? So Ed Norton washed, Newport Folk Festival not washed.
Conan O'Brien and Real Musicians. What does that mean?
They had Hozier.
They had El King. Did they have Hozier? Where'd you see that?
Yeah, the 2024 lineup is Friday.
Oh yeah, Hozier. There he is. Wow.
He's the only name I recognize, but
I mean, there are names I recognize, but these aren't names where I'm, like, rushing to Newport to watch this. Joan Baez was there last year. Special poetry reading. That must have been sick.
Okay.
Probably not boring.
Oh yeah, I see that, the poetry reading. Killer Mike. I feel like I've heard that name before.
Yeah, I mean,
Conan O'Brien and Real Musicians headlining on July 28th. Don't know what. I didn't know Conan O'Brien was a musician, but interesting. That's all we got. So I gave it a 2-star. George gave it a 3-star. It's like, if you like Bob Dylan, you probably think it's a fine movie. If you don't care for Bob Dylan, you probably hate it. Yeah.
That's it. It's just such a nothing movie to talk about.
Yeah. All right,
it's like, not a movie I'm excited about, but it's not a movie I care to, like, shit on. The movie's just there.
Right. Yeah. It's fine. All right. I'll review Babygirl quickly.
Oh, yeah.
So Babygirl, the synopsis here is, so it's directed by Helena Rain, who you may know her from Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. I've not seen that yet, but I know a good friend of the podcast, Sophie Holsinger, says it's like one of the funniest movies ever, and I've heard other people say that as well. So I need to see Bodies, 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 because I've heard positive things about it. But Babygirl synopsis: a high-powered CEO puts her career and family on the line when she begins a torrid affair with her much younger intern. Nicole Kidman playing the high-powered CEO, Harris Dickinson playing that intern, Antonio Banderas plays the husband in the situation, Sophie Wilde, who is from Talk to Me, notably, is like the intern coordinator who is managing Harris Dickinson. So yeah, let's get into it. This will be a pretty quick review because if you haven't seen Babygirl yet, this is similar to what I said for Nosferatu, but it's even more true here. Watch the trailer first off, then close your eyes and think, how is this movie going to play out? What's going to happen? That's the movie. There's nothing unexpected here. It's exactly every way you think this would play out. It would. Harris Dickinson comes in as an intern. Nicole, I mean, it's got dashes of like Eyes Wide Shut. Obviously, people talk about, how Tom Cruise's character is just like so emasculated, and it's like a black comedy of how much he just fumbles his way through trying to get what he wants sexually, but he's such a loser. But there's also sprinkles of like Sanctuary, where you have the Margaret Qualley and Christopher Abbott, where he's kind of controlling her, or she's controlling him, in that dominatrix role. And also Leo Grand, where it's like, someone re-exploring the sexuality after, kind of being closeted for a while, just like not really devoting time to it or not expressing it openly. But it's Harris Dickinson, great. Nicole Kidman, awesome. She's just like one of the goats, and that's kind of inarguable at this point. Antonio Banderas, that was really great as well. But ultimately, this is Harris Dickinson becomes an intern from the get-go, just completely just starts telling Nicole Kidman what to do, does not care that she's a CEO, completely controlling the conversation, basically like forces her to be his mentor. He's calling all the shots very early on and manipulating her, and you find out she's very sexually frustrated with Antonio Banderas. She kind of unveils she has some like trauma that makes it so she kind of needs something more serious from her sex life than Antonio Banderas is providing to her. Harris Dickinson comes in, finally starts telling her what to do, is more commanding, more controlling, something she's been searching for and lusting for. And exactly what you expect. They start having affairs. They start seeing each other, sleeping with each other, hot and heavy, as he completely just starts to control her whole life sexually. And then it obviously turns into exactly the twist you'd expect, which I guess, to be fair, I'll throw on spoilers because now that's all you would get from the trailer is that they start seeing each other. High-powered CEO, intern, probably going to be bad news. So spoilers tag on now if you don't want any of the movie spoiled. But again, I think it's exactly what you expect. He gets to the point where he starts to leverage like, hey, I could ruin your whole career if you don't start or don't keep seeing me, because she kind of starts to realize like, this isn't right. Got to quit this. This is probably a bad thing to do. He threatens her career. You find out Sophie Wilde, who is like the intern coordinator, is also kind of in on it as well and is using it to leverage her own career position to move up in the company and be a powerful woman leader in the company. So there's some messaging here about trying to show the dichotomy of like women in power versus men in power. And especially because like she's CEO of like an automation company that makes robots that are controlled obviously and do what they're told. So very clear symbolism there of what she's kind of looking for in her own relationship. She wants to be told what to do. But Sophie Wilde's character with the whole manipulation of like, she's also seeing Harris Dickinson's character and using it to leverage her own position in the company. That's a reveal that's kind of given with about 20 minutes left that I think is really interesting. And I think is an interesting angle and an interesting power dynamic that I wasn't expecting, but it's so minimally explored. And Sophie Wilde's character is given so little screen time and so little to do that it's not even really like a proper plot point to where it really is just like Harris Dickinson and Nicole Kidman. Ultimately you find out he like gets some high paying job at Toyota, some other automation factory in Japan, that clearly she kind of like set up. And then you see one of her like board of directors, someone else in the executive suite tries to then manipulate her as well and tell her what to do. And at the end of the movie, she's like, no, you're not telling me what to do. She kind of reclaims her autonomy, reclaims her power. And that's kind of the movie ends. And again, like you'd expect, Antonio Banderas finds out. He catches Harris Dickinson and Nicole Kidman in the act. They have a fight. Antonio Banderas, just like in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, gives us another very realistic depiction of a panic attack. And then kind of after Nicole Kidman and then him separate, they start to work on things. And it seems like they're on the up and up by the end. So it's like everything you'd expect. You'd have an intern come in, start sleeping with the boss. It all goes fun and dandy. Then the intern and people start making threats about your job and exposing you. If you don't, do what they're told, then you have the husband who eventually finds out about this. And then the end, I guess maybe it's not I guess maybe you'd expect that the CEO gets what she deserves and gets fired, and that maybe it's a twist, I guess, that she doesn't, but she still has a company. She seems like she's getting back on track of their marriage, even though they do split for a brief bit. Harris Dickinson gets what he wants in terms of getting a high paying position at Toyota, I guess. Sophie Wilde gets what she wants, moving up the company. I guess Nicole Kidman gets what she wants. She reclaims her autonomy, reclaims her power. She's finally being able to be open and communicative about her sexuality with Antonio Banderas. And Antonio Banderas, I guess, gets what he wants in terms of a wife who's not so emotionally distant. So it's like everyone gets what they want. I guess I'm looking at the post right now. This Christmas, get exactly what you want. Everyone in this movie gets exactly what they want. But yeah, it's one of those movies. You see the trailer, think about it. Yeah, that's the movie. That's how it's going to go. Nothing really inspired about it. 3 stars, nothing great visually or exciting there. Maybe I guess worth seeing just because the performances are great. I think Harris Dickinson is one of the best we got today, up and coming. Antonio Banderas is someone who I haven't seen a ton of recently, but he's awesome in this. And then Nicole Kidman, phenomenal. And obviously Sophie Wilde, I think is great as well, but just we don't get enough of her. So 3 stars what I get. I think it's fine, but other than that, I will text the fellas and tell them to get back in here. We are done. George is back. Seth is coming. And that is our review of A Complete Nose for Baby.
Whilst we wait for Seth.
Have you seen Bodies, George?
I have. I actually really love Bodies. One of the movie, I think. Oh God, this would actually work well as a TikTok video. Like most top 10 movies that Victoria and I have watched together as a couple. Because I think Bodies could be top 10 because we've watched that I think like 4 times together. Can you guys guess what movie we've watched together the most? And this is off the top of my head. I don't know if this would be our number 1, but like this is the one that I think we have watched together maybe fucking 10 plus times. Like pre-Letterboxd. No. Good guess though. You're on the right track. It is a comedy. I'll give you a hint.
Superbad?
No. More recent. More recent. I don't know what year this came out actually. Maybe like 2012, 2013.
10. No.
Step Brothers?
Yeah, there's a number in the title, so you're there.
Is it the Matthew McConaughey, Kate Hudson one?
No, it's 21 Jump Street.
I was close to Superbad, to be fair. That's very.
I think we've seen 21 Jump Street so many times together.
Right, we shall move on. We had like a bunch of news this week.
Yeah.
What do we talk about first? All right, we'll talk about George. You're gonna have to stop watch on George for this part, Tyler. All right, just so he doesn't waffle on for ages. So, Christopher Nolan, we got news about his next film. It will be an adaptation of the Odyssey, which I think is a piece of literature. I don't know.
Tell me, O muse, of that ingenious hero who traveled far and wide after he had sacked the famous town of Troy. Many cities did he visit, and many were the nations with whose manners and customs he was acquainted.
Great.
You guys want me to finish the book real quick? It's only
no, it's good.
Yeah, it's only 400 pages.
You make it to page 2 yet?
No, I actually just started right now.
Nice. So described as a mythic. Obviously, everyone knows. Well,
no, not everyone knows.
Dude, Twitter sucks, bro. Fuck Twitter.
A mythic action epic that follows the tale of Odysseus and his 10-year journey home after the Trojan War. Starring, obviously, we got the news a while ago, the casting news stuff. Tom Holland, Zendaya, Anne Hathaway, Matt Damon, Lupita Nyong'o, Robert Pattinson, reportedly the most expensive film of his career, which previously was held by Interstellar, if I'm not mistaken.
Dark Knight Rises, I think.
No, yeah, Dark Knight Rises was like 250 actually. Yeah, Dark Knight Rises, you're right. So, this will be mid. Okay, here's what I'll say. This is all really, really exciting. This is great. Can he do the vampire film as well? You know, that's cool.
True. I still
the helicopter. We keep them all in the back.
Helicopter. Yeah. No, this is really, really cool. I think as everyone is very, very excited for this. Very, very keen to see how he plays into the fantastical side of it. I'm really, really keen to see that. Obviously, it's something that Nolan hasn't really delved into before. Will he have to use, real dragons and shit like that? Maybe, maybe he'll pull out his bag. But I don't know. It's a really, really interesting one. I think the cast looks amazing. The Trojan War is something that I think is very, very interesting. And personally, and again, just to kind of get onto this discourse, the Odyssey isn't actually. Obviously, I know what the Odyssey is, but it's not something we did here at school.
The Odyssey was not taught. I learned about the Odyssey in Greek school, so it was never taught in like school. Middle school, elementary school, high school. It was never taught. And then so I read it once in Greek school as a child, and then I reread it in college when I took a Greek mythology elective. But it was never like just taught in like high schools in New York. So like that's why the Twitter discourse kind of bothered me. Like, obviously not knowing about the Odyssey is just kind of dumb in and of itself, but like not having the capacity to understand that like they don't teach it in it's just not, it's not accessible. Like they don't teach it in every single school.
Yeah, I mean,
my school taught me. I read the Odyssey in school, so
all right, them Wisconsin schools, man.
We just kind of like, I remember
Minnesota. My bad.
Yeah, we did like we did Greek mythology, but I don't think we actually, we obviously studied the Trojan War, and I knew the story of the Odyssey, but we never actually went into it. I don't think it's really on the English curriculum here in literature. But I mean, it is surprising to people that people don't know what it is, considering like it's a base of like so much fiction we get today, and it's like one of the most important books ever, like bar, the Bible, for example.
Yeah.
But it is surprising people don't know it. But then at the same time, it's like it's not the end.
Like if you were never taught it, when are you just gonna randomly walk past? Like no one just talks about it. That's the part that bothers me. Like if you were never taught the Odyssey, no one just talks about the Odyssey in day-to-day life. Like we've been doing this podcast for 2 years. This is the first time we've mentioned the Odyssey, even though it's had so much impact on so many movies that we have reviewed. So like that's why the Twitter discourse was so annoying. It's like if you're not taught this book, it's very, very understandable why you may not know about it. It's not just like spoken about.
And it's a thing, like the thing is with the Odyssey, it's a story that even if you think you don't know it, you know it. You know what I mean? It kind of transcends just everything that we get today. And I think, but it's not something that's on. It's difficult because I think a lot of the discourse has come from, and George is correcting me here because I thought it was based on what I saw online from American side of film, Twitter or whatever, where it is kind of like the thing that is in the curriculum nationwide, or so as I was thinking. Whereas it's literally not here. So especially here, if someone doesn't know what it is, I'm kind of.
It was never in my curriculum. I don't know about the entirety of the United States. Obviously, Tyler just said he learned about it, but like in my curriculum in New York, I never learned about it.
Yeah. Also, like obviously, without being around the bush, like Soups is the one who took the brunt of the criticism for not knowing. And the thing people also have to remember is like generationally, I think globally, the education system, not just an American thing, I think globally education systems are not as great as they used to be. They're failing. And on top of that, if you think about people like a couple of years younger than all we are, like 3, 4, 5 years younger, their like high school experience was like virtual for like 2 or 3 years. So like they had a completely different experience. It's like, part of me agrees. Yes, you should be able to like know what the Odyssey is and explore stuff out of your comfort zone and then seek stuff out that's supposed to be classic literature. The other hand, I get, the education system's issues there. It's a privileged take to assume everyone's getting the same stuff.
It's a very
issues on both ends. It's just like people on Twitter posting these unnecessary think pieces about those who don't know the Odyssey. It's like, if you truly cannot understand that someone doesn't know what the Odyssey is, that's a you problem. Like you're stupid. And I hate throwing around the word pretentious, but you are the pretentious piece of shit if you genuinely cannot understand how someone wouldn't know what the Odyssey is.
I mean, and literature and the arts is all going to be like that. Like music, people who are big into music are going to call people like Gracie Abrams and Taylor Swift like, oh, idiots, less than peons. People who love movies are going to say people who watch Marvel stuff or dumb brain. People who read classic literature and be like, oh, you're reading the new Hunger Games book, try having an IQ above 60 for a chance. Like it's just like it just comes with the territory. People are going to think they're better than each other and stuff. That like that's the thing. When the more subjective things get in terms of like reading, like what books are like the classics or what movies are the classics or what artists are the greats, like the more subjective things get, the more like people are going to think, oh, I'm better than you because this is my taste versus the other. Whereas like, stuff like mathematics is kind of more objective. Like, yes, I know more math than you because I clearly know how to multiply and you're still on addition. Like it's more, you can stack them easier than something that's a subjective thing. But again, I'm trying to branch out. Like I'm going to read, I ordered the same copy you got. I like the black and gold cover.
Yeah.
The cool Dracula, because I just got Dracula as well in the mail. And that's also black and gold. So I'm trying to get a little black and gold collection. But yeah, I'm going to try and read more. I think the thing that came out of the discourse, if there's any positives, is I used to read a lot. And I would like when I first graduated college, I read like 47 books in the 1 year. And then the last 2 years, I've read nothing. I haven't read a single book in the last 2 years. To be fair, this is the first year of my life I haven't been in college. So like grad school or undergraduate. So like I was still like reading quite a bit, but it's like academic literature, not really like a book. So I feel like that kept me in the zone. But I feel like with this discourse, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna start reading.
It's a good thing, man. People are learning.
A book a month is my goal.
The discourse is a good thing. Like, it got me to order a book for the first time in actually not that long, because I ordered the Dune books, but still, it got me to order another book that I hopefully plan on reading after I finish Dune Messiah. But like, people were also out here tweeting like, are there really people out there that just don't read? Like, how is that possible? How are you that like intellectually inept? And I'm like, one, privileged take. Two, I'm in my office 10 hours a day. I leave my office. I go to the gym. I come home. I engage in conversation with Victoria. We talk about our days. Then we watch a movie. Like, I'm not squeezing. There's a long list of things I would rather do than read a book. And it's not that I hate reading. It's that I'd rather watch a movie. I'd rather go to the gym. I'd rather play tennis. I'd rather talk to Victoria, blah, blah, blah. Like, people are just like, book talk is crazy. I did not realize it was
bigger than film talk, man.
Yeah, book Twitter, my bad. Book Twitter is insane. Like, people coming out of the woodworks just shitting on everyone who just doesn't read. And I'm like, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, reading's a weird one, because it's like, I'm like Tyler. I think in the last, Counting Dracula is my third book of the year, whereas I used to read like a lot when I was younger. But it's time, man. Like, when you have your own thing, like, you know, you both have really, really active job, me with my business, and I prioritize films and gaming sometimes as well. I think reading is a difficult one, because it's also the issue with me. It's similar to how I view like TV shows now, where it's a big commitment, and I just don't want to go into that sometimes.
Exactly.
I do want to definitely. I think like 3 books a year isn't great. I do want to read like at least probably like 10 next year, and there are some that I definitely want to read that I haven't read for a long time.
The biggest issue for me with reading is whenever I get like, okay, I'm going to get into a reading phase and start intentionally reading more, I always think like, all right, what's like a great like philosophy book or leadership or like finance, like stuff that I could like really improve myself with. And then like, it's like something that's just not interesting to me to read. So it's like, I give it up. It's like, I just got to start doing stuff that's like, you know, Dracula, love the story, will probably be easy to read. But if I'm going to start with like something like Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, which eventually I want to read, I guarantee I'll pick that up, read a couple pages, set it down, not want to touch it again. I'll just be like, I'll just give up on this whole reading.
I used to look, when I first started business, I was like that guy who would just like read self-help books in the morning for like 30 minutes. It actually like did help though, like in terms of like building a discipline. And I prefer like nonfiction generally anyway, but I do want to make more of an effort this year, I think, to read more, just because there's a lot of classics like a Dracula, like a Odyssey that I've never read, you know.
It's also like what do I want to explore? Like, I want to explore film. I want to keep watching movies. I want to grow my bag. And like, if I'm going on a walk or if I'm going to the beach, I'm not bringing a book. I'm bringing my iPhone and I'm listening to music. I'm exploring music. I'd rather listen to new albums than read new books. Like, that's just like a me thing.
And also, book talk is crazy. If you think watching, what do we watch a year? 400 movies, 300 movies, 200 movies. There's people out there in book talk are reading 200, 300 books.
Ranking movies, books
like,
out.
I thought reading 300 movies, watching 300 movies a year is crazy. Like,
dude,
a movie a day. Out here reading like 500 books.
Well, this is the thing. There isn't time. Like I said to you guys the other day, I texted you. I think Anna said that she's read like 110 this year or whatever it is, but she's probably watched like 30, 40 films. You know what I mean?
She probably reads way faster than we do because she does it all the time.
Yeah, exactly. There's not
dude. I read one email at work and it ruins my day. Like, do you understand how much reading I'm doing throughout the day? Sorry, it's not books, it's emails. I read. Fuck book Twitter.
Really love emails.
But yeah, I just keep thinking of those Friday or whatever that those guys do the sketches like about movies where it's like the guy who's like, I can't remember, what is it? Friday TV is their TikTok account. It's hilarious where he's like, just like, oh, you like Marvel movies? It's like, for George, like being like, I read all day and it ruins my day. It's like, oh, you need pictures in your book? Is that what you need?
Dude, wait. Someone, hold on Cam's letterbox review of Nosferatu, someone commented like, oh, you didn't have Subway Surfers on the bottom half?
Yeah,
which I've put on his TikToks before, to be fair, when he's done videos.
Yeah.
I've commented before on like Cam stuff, like, oh, not enough Iron Man or what?
Yeah, that's fun.
Well, we're all going to read more. That's positive.
But aside from the Odyssey, how are we feeling about Nolan's The Odyssey? Mid? Yeah, mid.
I mean, listen, this news sent me spiraling. This is
the next news also sent you spiraling, but in a different manner.
Yeah, fair. A lot of news makes me spiral, but this made me crash out positively. I don't mean to be hyperbolic, but this might be the biggest movie news of our lifetime. Like, this is the biggest filmmaker, in my opinion, the best filmmaker of the 21st century, adapting the second or third biggest piece of literature ever, depending on how you rank the Bible, the Quran, and the Odyssey.
On TikTok or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a ranking of those three. Yeah, what is the most prominent piece of literature? But yeah, this is insane. I love the description, like Seth, like you said, described as a mythic action epic that follows Odysseus and his 10-year journey home. Like, that makes me so giddy. Like, this is just such a massive project for such a massive filmmaker to take on. And I genuinely don't think anyone outside of like Nolan and Denis right now could adapt such a dense piece of literature unless you have like Scorsese adapting the Bible. Like, that would
give me
Eggers brilliant.
Dark approach to the Odyssey. Give me Eggers.
That'd be crazy.
But I know what you mean though. It's a huge thing.
It's just it's massive, and we're already getting news that like it's going to be filmed around the world. He's going to dive into the fantastical elements of it as best as he can. Like, this is insane. Yeah. This is such a massive project. This is such massive. I genuinely cannot think of another piece of movie news that has come out over the last 10 years that has been bigger than this.
Yeah, it's massive. When he came out, like he like, it was a quote from him that said like, "I won't avoid the fantastical parts of it." It's like, yeah, I hope not.
It's like, obviously that's the whole fucking
what are we doing? It's like, Nolan's adapting Oppenheimer. He will not stray away from the atomic bomb creation. Okay, we get it.
It is a massive, huge deal though. Like, I think it's and you can see it by not only the interactions and the engagement that the post got from like the likes of media, like discussing film days, whatever, but also just the insane discourse that was created around it after it, which kind of led on to not Nolan, but
Twitter exploded, dude.
Yeah, for sure. And it's Twitter when you have a cast and it's set to be the most expensive film of his career. We're in a stage now where Oppenheimer nearly made $1 billion.
Yeah,
and Nolan,
no one fills seats the way Nolan does.
Yeah, like he has blank checks at this point.
Yeah,
because of how he's what he's done for Warner Bros, especially coming up to last release, and the cast he can get with them as well.
Dude, the cast. This is what I'm most interested in. Is like, we know who's in the cast: Tom Holland, Matt Damon, Zendaya, Charlize Theron, Lupita Nyong'o, Anne Hathaway. So what I think a lot of people are confusing right now. So Tom Holland was the first announced cast member. So I think people are inherently thinking that he's playing Odysseus. I don't think that's the case. I think Matt Damon
about it though. I think well, apparently, and this might be fake. Apparently, Tom Holland might be playing the second build or something.
Yeah, I think he's going to play Telemachus, Odysseus' son. And I think what would make most sense of the names, obviously this cast is going to continue to grow, but of the names that we know, Matt Damon playing Odysseus makes the most sense. Robert Pattinson playing Poseidon makes the most sense. Like, these just make sense. Like, obviously this cast is going to grow. So maybe, who knows, maybe tomorrow another name drops and I'm like, oh, this would make more sense as Odysseus. But as of right now, I think Matt Damon as Odysseus just makes the most sense. Like, Lupita Nyong'o as Calypso, Charlize Theron as Cersei. Like, these just make sense with the names that we have. But we only have, 6 names right now? This cast is going to grow. Either way, this cast is going to grow.
Rumor that came out the other day where it's like Nolan has very big name actors still yet to be announced in this movie. So, but I think it's already been kind of confirmed that Matt Damon is like the lead role, so he's going to be Odysseus.
Yeah, I think that would make the most sense. Matt Damon as Odysseus, I really do. He has that relationship with Nolan. They kind of know exactly what each of them need out of such a project. Where are we throwing Cillian Murphy? He's going to be in this cast. I have no doubt about it.
Maybe he might be too big now in terms of not too big for Nolan because they've been partners, but too big in the sense that I think Nolan would be like, how do I fit in the man who I just gave a lead role to win an Oscar? How do I not put him in this?
How do I not make him feel disrespected? I guess. Yeah, I get that.
I think Cillian Murphy's the kind of guy who would take, I think you have to look at, again, Cillian Murphy just come off the back of, the last film winning Best Actor, but at the same time, Nolan has the draw in his films to have Oscar-winning actors Gary Oldman, Casey Affleck play these tiny single-scene roles. You know
that too. Like you don't say it's like it's the way people talk about like Terrence Malick, where they're like, we don't even care if we're in the movie or not. We just want to be on that set to watch how he films his movies. It's the same thing with Nolan, I think, at this point in like most actors and actresses' careers, where they're like, we don't care how big or small of a role this is. We just want to experience a Christopher Nolan production.
Like Oppenheimer was under $100 million budget with all those actors.
Yeah.
You wouldn't find many filmmakers who'd be able to make it for the same, because people are happy to work with him for not much in a small fee, but a lesser fee than they might obtain for leading a role of someone else's film. Like he has that ability. Yeah. So it wouldn't surprise me if Cillian Murphy had a role that was not as big, but I guess the only difference is that it was the last Nolan film where he literally just won it. And Cillian Murphy's like in the limelight more than ever, even more so when Peaky Blinders was at its peak. You know what I mean? So it depends.
I mean, Cillian Murphy's been a side guy for Nolan for so long. Then he got the leading opportunity. Matt Damon was a side guy, now he's the lead. I mean, Tom Hardy seems due to get a lead in a Nolan film eventually. Maybe.
Tom Hardy as Odysseus.
Maybe.
Nah.
Maybe he brings up like Harry Styles from Dunkirk as a supporting role and starts building him up.
Yeah.
Maybe Aaron Taylor Johnson. He's in Tenet. I'm trying to think of like who are like side guys that Nolan's going to start working to be more lead guys.
Yeah.
He likes to develop
Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He's worked with twice. Could kind of revitalize his career there.
Yeah, true.
Bro, bring back DiCaprio.
Hasn't Mark Rylance been in a couple of films, or was that just Dunkirk?
Barry Keoghan though was in Dunkirk. You know,
Barry Keoghan was in Dunkirk.
Yeah, he was.
He has a face for the Odyssey. I feel like.
I know.
Take that for what you will.
No, I know what you mean.
But no, I'm very excited. I think Nolan said in an interview, maybe it was about Oppenheimer, maybe it was about his next film, but I really love what he said about how he has been given the gift of being a box office champion who gets blank checks and can put butts in seats, and he's not going to waste that gift. Like he's going to use it to the fullest of his ability. And I don't know, like it's like weird because like the Odyssey is such a, I don't know. I just feel like this is about as big of a swing as I could ever imagine after winning your Oscars. To do something like you can say Tenet's a big swing because it's such an obscure film. This is a huge swing in a different direction where it's like something that's so known, but to do it so ballsy. And like it's at this point, Nolan is such an interesting part of his career, and I just can't wait to see what this ends up being. But we're gonna get it before, thankfully we're gonna get an all-timer voice acting performance from Robert Pattinson.
Yeah.
Now that his schedule's cleared up a bit.
Wow. I wonder why his schedule's cleared. Yeah. So his schedule's cleared because
Mickey 17 is delayed.
The Batman 2 has been delayed by 1 year. Again, another year, because it was originally meant to come out next year. I think October the 1st, whatever it was, 2025. Then 2026, now October the 1st, 2027. Begin filming in late summer of 2025. James Gunn said on, not Twitter, but Threads, because that's where he lives. The only reason for Batman to delay, there isn't the full script yet. Which is interesting because again, it sparked discourse in that how long does it take to make a sequel? But I, for one, am upset. But as many of us have noted, we want a good film, and we don't want to rush these sort of things. And I actually kind of admire it in a way that you just said that. But it is also kind of worrying at the same time. So yeah, it may not also be titled The Batman Part 2. Interesting. I wonder what it'd be titled.
Court of
Brave
Owls.
and the Bold.
The Batman versus Mr. Freeze.
Don't even speak that into existence, Tyler.
But yeah, so it's been delayed another year. So we have like what, 2.5 years? No, more actually. Like
I'm going to be 30.
I'm going to be 29. That's actually kind of sad, to be honest.
Like that's insane. Like I'm going to have a kid. Cam might be on his fourth kid.
Have a kid. Cam will be on like 7 by then. It'd be crazy.
Yeah, I bet Cam has 3 kids by the time Batman 2 comes out.
I think you might have
3 more or 3 total.
No, 3 total. I think you might have 2 more. I think you might have 4.
I was gonna say, relax.
I bet his next kid will be named Elway too. They're always Denver Broncos greats. It's gonna be Elway. So I can see it. Elway, Sutton Bailey. But no, I mean, obviously staying skin delayed again. It is a weird one though, because James Gunn's been consistent about this the whole time. He's always said he's not going to greenlight projects or give the go ahead until the script is finished. Obviously, a big departure from what Marvel does. So he's stayed consistent with that, and he's doing the same thing here. A lot of people, obviously, as expected, immediately when this news got announced, like James Gunn is folding it into the DCU, or James Gunn is canning the Reeves universe because he's like jealous. Like it's always James Gunn, which I get. I guess you're the CEO of the company. People want to point to the top, but I think we all can agree James Gunn always gets unnecessary amounts of people blaming him for things out of his control. But it is a bit of an odd one. Matt Reeves hasn't done anything since the previous The Batman, and if it's just a script, makes you wonder: are they completely rewriting things? Is it
a quote came out from Matt Reeves recently that he said the script was like basically done. I think like a month or two. What
So
the fuck has changed in this time? You know,
I know there's rumors of some stuff maybe going on in his personal life, so maybe that's what's holding him back. But it is a bit of an odd one. It would make sense to me if he did Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes or something. So it was like he was working on stuff in between these, but it's like
did he produce that or anything?
Yeah, he was probably. I mean, but he didn't direct it like he did the other ones. It's like I don't know. It's just interesting. I feel it's taken a long time. Again, it's like you want it to be a good movie, but at the same time, it is a bit of an interesting one. How it's like Robert Pattinson was supposed to be like the young Batman, who isn't young Bruce Wayne, not fully developed into the Batman like we saw in the Bale or Bruce Wayne iterations or Ben Affleck iterations, but now he's going to be like
40?
I don't know, older than Bale in his. And Ben
Affleck wasn't.
He's going to go from the young. He's going to go from the young Batman to like the grizzled vet, like in the jump of one. But and like I saw like a lot of memes being like my face like being upset or whatever of like how I'm going to feel when I see the Batman Part 2 start with like 2 months later or like 1 month, like it's like immediately after the events of the other Batman and Penguin. It's like, man, it's been 5 whole ass years, and it's like it's been 2 weeks since the Penguin.
Yeah, it's been like 5.5, nearly 6 years, wasn't it? Yeah, because didn't the Batman come out like February or March 22?
March 22, I believe. It was like March 1, 2022.
Yeah, so it's going to have been like 5.5 years in between, which for a direct sequel, it's going to kind of follow again. Not even much of a jump. It's going to be a weird one. And someone like I remember I did a video on this, and a few people commented on my video when I reacted to the news, like saying people are going to care less. No one's going to care that by that point, which I think is like completely the opposite. I think if anything, it's going to hype it up more because this was like groundbreaking news and it came out like the interactions all over the place. But it's a worrying one because we basically saw that it was pretty much ready and they were going to start shooting. I think the original shoot was scheduled for like early 2025, I think, or like maybe like March, April 2025, something like that. And now it's obviously pushed ahead, which isn't a great sign. So yeah, I don't know what to make of it, to be honest. I'm not sure.
But we'll get it when we get it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I tweeted this, shining light on a dark day, which isn't actually down, I don't think. Oh yeah, so Mickey 17 has been moved up a month, brought forward a month, which is cool, and the new Inarritu and Tom Cruise film has taken the spot that Batman had and will be taking the slot of October 2nd, 2026 in theaters. Film follows the most powerful man in the world who tries to prove he is humanity's savior before the disaster has unleashed anything destroyed. That's cool. Tom Holland back in his like auto bag, if you consider an auto.
Tom Cruise. A little Freudian slip there. Maybe Tom Holland is the next Tom Cruise.
Did I say Tom Holland?
Yeah, Tom Holland back in his auteur bag. Bro loves the Russo brothers.
Did I say Tom Holland?
Yeah, you did.
You did.
Yeah. Russo is love that. What a guy. But yeah, that sounds cool. So obviously, shining light, whatever. But and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Sinner. Is it the Sinner and Mickey 17?
Yeah, they switched.
Yeah, they switched.
Sinner's gone back a month.
Yeah, because Sinners, there's something with the post processing of it. Something they're doing with it that like it's taking longer than expected. So I guess they're just like, well, because Mickey 17's been done for a whole last year.
We were meant to
like,
we'll flip it. March this year, I'm pretty sure, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Great. When does it come out? What's
March. It's like March of this upcoming year. Yeah, it was supposed to be January, then it got pushed back again to like. So it's like they moved it up a month after delaying it a year, and then delaying it more than like 4 months. Now, like, oh, we're actually giving it to you a little earlier. But excited for that. Excited for Sinners.
And final movie news. I have no idea what. Batman. Andy Muschietti says Batman: The Brave and the Bold movie has been delayed for a bit.
So it just came at the same time.
It's
no.
I know it's not Clayface, but is this going to involve Clayface?
Probably not.
I don't know, but it's just the timing's peculiar. The Batman 2 getting delayed, Batman Brave and the Bold getting delayed, but I think it's just a coincidence and nothing more.
Fucking better be a coincidence.
George, you didn't even mention Clayface in your big tweet, by the way, with like 1 million films listed.
Yeah, like what?
Disrespect. This is a disrespect. But that's kind of it for today. So our real quick, which will come on Thursday, is going to be a draft of movies we like to more on rewatch. Plenty of those for all of us that you probably guess. And also this week on Patreon, we'll be reviewing Ford versus Ferrari. And next week we'll be looking back at 2024. I'm assuming we'll be doing like our rankings and stuff and saying our favorite movies of the year, etc. Most disappointing, most surprising, whatever we want to do. And also, we're going to be looking forward to our most anticipated movies of 2025, which is always one of my favorite things to do because then we look back at it and realize that they were shit. The merch store is now live again. Patrons, as I said earlier, get 20% off. So please feel free to check that out, as there'll be more to come with that. And yeah, we'll speak to you all on Thursday with our real quick.
Peace.
Peace.